Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Spitball, and I'm here with my good buddy,
Kyle Amundsen.
and we have Ace Collie in the house. How you doing, Ace?
I'm doing all right.
Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, I was kind of excited when Kyle asked me. And then, like I said, I thought about it, and I was like, is this going to be another segment of Ask a Black Guy?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, we said we were gonna try to get some of our friends of color on, and then we realized we didn't have any.
You know,
It took us a while.
That's a lot.
No, the truth is that like it's been a while since we got together.
Yeah.
It's been almost.
it's
a month.
been like since we got together, but like, isn't it about a
year?
Like, pretty much a year, almost to the day. Like
Yeah.
that.
since Ace has been on.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think you were like episode 4 or 5. So it has been a while. But I mean, why have we taken a month to like get together and talk? And
Mostly my fault,
well,
I think.
partially, I think. But also I think part of it has just been that with everything that's going on, I felt like the last thing that everybody needed was to watch a couple of middle-aged white guys sit around and talk about shit they
Right.
didn't really like, have an informed opinion
Yeah.
on, It's like shit was just too heavy to actually.
Are you saying that like sometimes that it's possible that white people have been like speaking for black people like out of turn? Like,
Yeah. I think
I haven't
there's-
seen any of that.
It's
You haven't?
it's called white splaining. Yeah, it's a lot like
I like it.
mansplaining, but it's
I
white
like it.
splaining. Yeah.
You know, I've been getting a kick out of, I see so much of it like on Facebook and shit like that. You see it so much on social media, where like, I'm like, and we've talked about this before, how like, like dudes like up here in like rural Minnesota and shit are like, well, racism is not even an issue. I'm like, well, I'm glad you feel like it's not an issue. Like congratulations.
Yeah.
I'll relay the message. I'm sure everyone will be very relieved.
But before we jump into Ask a Black Man, is that what the segment was called on Chappelle?
No, I don't know.
So no,
I know
I know,
which one was.
like I know black people.
I know black people.
Was the Chappelle Show one?
Yeah.
And it was fucking hilarious. But there was another one that I was trying to think of. It was from an older skit show, and I was trying to think of if it was like in Living Color or what the hell it was, or maybe Saturday Night Live, because there was a segment on there, and I thought about it like when I was watching like the rioting and shit, and it was a dating show. That's what it was. It was a dating show, and the chick was like, and there was a black contestant. She's like, "Bachelor number 3, is it true what they say about black men?" And he said, "Yes, we do steal televisions."
I don't remember that one. I actually got some of the Living Color DVDs. I got to check those out again.
Man,
Oh, they were
that was great shit. And I've got all the Chappelle shows on DVD.
How old are you, Ace?
34.
Okay, so you'd have been pretty young for In Living Color, like for it to be on TV.
I watched all of them.
I was a
back then.
teenager, like a young teen, when In Living Color was.
Yeah, I was probably younger, but I watched them faithfully.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I suppose. Man, I remember Jennifer Lopez. I
never remembered her from there.
she was like the original Fly Girl.
I
yeah.
remember that,
Yeah.
but I just remember like Jamie Foxx
Yeah, Jamie Foxx.
and Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
Man,
Their roles on there.
yeah.
just such
Fire
big
Marshal
stars.
Bill.
Fire Marshal Bill.
Let me show you
Hey,
something.
brother, let me show you something.
Riding the snake.
Right. Oh, shit.
His
The
diet
meth diet?
program. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jamie Foxx, man, like, holy shit! I can't even believe he's gone from In Living Color and then to Django
Right?
Unchained. I
like
mean,
serious roles and stuff
wow.
like that. Like
There's been
serious
a lot of
roles.
celebrities that blew up from like starting from Living Color.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
But Jennifer Lopez, I actually just have been recently watching some of her TikTok videos. She's got like the Jennifer. I know, dude.
I don't have TikTok.
I don't either.
I don't either.
I don't either. I just
How do you get to
actually
watch 'em?
Meta shows them to me, but
Oh.
I think she's actually showing them to me on YouTube or
A lot of them
something
show
like
up on
that.
Facebook and
Or
stuff.
Facebook. But she's got like the Jennifer Lopez TikTok challenge, and she does a TikTok dance and then sends them to other celebrities, and then they do
okay.
they like try to like do her dance. It's fucking pretty hilarious.
Man, that movie,
So I
like
think
she
we
just
need
made
to
that
do one.
movie. I don't know if you guys saw it, where they were strippers or whatever.
I didn't see it, but I heard it was pretty good.
Man, it was
Oh,
really
with
good.
all the
it was
girls
like
and stuff.
strippers, Goodfellas and shit. Like it
Right.
was like they were really gangster, and it was pretty good. And then of course Jennifer Lopez, whatever. She's like fucking 10 years older than like we are or whatever. Like, and she's a fucking smoke show.
Yeah.
Oh, she's still in a lot of
Ridiculous.
shape. Yep.
Yeah. Well, she can dance.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. I mean, she can fucking really dance.
yeah.
Yeah. TikTok is ridiculous. And I don't have TikTok and I don't know whatever.
Me
But
neither.
met us to the panhandlers
The
that were out
panhandlers
front.
outside asking me, "You want some lemonade?" No, I'm here to see your dad. No, I didn't say that. I was like, "No, I'll do it on my way back."
I'm not their father.
Oh, you're not.
No.
Oh,
Those aren't my panhandlers. Those are Meta's panhandlers.
Got you.
Oh, my children are much older, and male. But her two middle daughters just are really into doing TikTok dances, and Mia's 10 cracks me the fuck up. But I'll be sitting there like washing dishes or whatever, and like talking to her, and then I'll look over and she's talking to me, but she's also like, and I'm like, are you okay? Do you have a are you developing a tick? I mean, what is going on? But actually, she's really good. Like when she's listening, I mean, she's really good at the dancing. But I'm like, it's just a little weird when you're doing it. There's no music and you're in the middle of a conversation. I mean, it's a little strange, but hey, whatever. I mean, it's not. I guess that's not by far the worst thing. You said you had a couple of geek things you wanted to talk about.
Oh, not necessarily geek things.
Oh, come on, you're talking. It's a geek thing.
I just want to show you guys my shirt, my I Love You 3000 shirt that my wonderful daughter bought for me. It was a Father's Day present. Yeah, love you, Chloe.
You didn't get a speaker?
A speaker.
That's what I got.
Oh, yeah. See, I know you went fishing.
I went fishing with Logan. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
A buddy of mine got the same gift. We were messing around, and he was like, "Yeah, I got a speaker too." And I was like, "Oh, I got a JBL speaker. What'd you get?" He was like, "The same brand." And he was like, "The sad part is, my girlfriend got it. He rides bike. He was like, she got it from my Harley or whatever. But little does she know, I already have a motorcycle speaker. So all I can do is smile and say thank you." And then he sends me a picture. They went on a trip going skiing and stuff. So it's a picture of his daughter. A trip. He was like, a trip that I paid for. She gives me a picture from a trip that I paid for, a speaker, and a lunch bag that looks like those little brown paper bags. It was made out of like suede leather material.
Oh, nice though.
Yeah. And he was like, "I'm gonna remember that crap for Mother's Day. Watch."
I think dads just get fucked on Father's
Yeah.
Day.
You
It is.
think?
It is.
You think?
Just a little.
I mean, like the average gift for Mother's Day is like $3,000 in jewelry or something
Holy
like that.
crap,
They were
I'm
saying.
not going
I don't
that
know. I
hard.
saw some shit on Facebook.
You're in a different tax bracket. Up there, 3,000.
Not like, come on. Like, I don't even. No. I did get to go fishing with Peyton with Logan rather on Father's Day. And we went out to the mine pits and we fucking got into them. And yeah, it was pretty fun. Pretty fun. Actually had it wasn't the biggest bass I've ever caught, but it was the most, like, it was the coolest fight. And, it was fun, man. The thing was running and Logan had to net it and everything. It was pretty cool.
I should take up fishing. It looks relaxing.
It's
fun,
entertaining.
man. Yeah.
I had fun. The biggest fight I've ever had was muskie fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, down in the Mississippi River. Cut
Yeah.
off a piece of corn. Some guy told me.
You got a muskie?
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
No, actually, no, not a muskie. A carp. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. You get a
Carp.
carp.
That one, yeah, that sucker was huge.
Yeah, like 40 pounds.
I don't know how it was.
mean,
huge,
like-
though. It was a fight.
Like
It took a while.
this,
I want to go like saltwater fishing.
I do too. I have
It's on
been.
my to-do list.
I went halibut fishing up in Alaska for my honeymoon of my second wife. That was quite a while ago. It was cool.
Some people don't learn.
Yeah, no shit. No shit. Free name change though. So there's that. But I never caught a halibut. I caught a red snapper, which is another.
Okay.
It's an ocean fish, which is really a good. I mean, it was it's about 12 pounds. It was
Yeah,
a good
snappers
catch.
in Florida.
But yeah, I think they're ocean wide. I don't know for sure. But and then I went river fishing up there and caught a couple of things, but nothing great. But it was fun. I didn't really enjoy being on the ocean though. It really fucks your guts up. Like it's hard to.
Really?
Oh yeah, because you're like, you get seasick. I mean, and even if you don't aren't really susceptible to it, it's still uncomfortable because you're just kind of getting lulled up and down the whole time, and it just makes you feel kind of shitty. I don't know. Jess, my second wife, she puked over the side of the boat and she had a much rougher time of it than I did.
Yeah.
And of course back then I was videotaping and everything, and then I edited together a cool little montage of our honeymoon.
For the breakup? Or?
with her puking over the side of the boat. I was kind of an asshole. No. I did it right afterward. It's just like a little, fun memory thing, and then I don't know. I zoom in on her and she goes, "I puked."
Was it some drinking involved?
No, it was just. It's a man.
I've never had that issue.
You've never? Well, have you ever been out on the ocean?
Yeah.
Really? And you didn't have that?
No.
Weird. Maybe it's a melanin thing.
Have you?
I was trying to think of if I've ever been like in a boat on the ocean. Like I've just flown over because I am not a big water guy. Can't swim. Don't
You
really
can't
care for
swim?
boats. Fuck no.
It's the arms.
Man, I fucking I almost drowned at swimming lessons when I
Man.
was like 7 at the YMCA.
I had this buddy, Corey Marchese, growing up. He's a super fucking cool guy. But he ended up growing weed in California for a while. And it was during that time period where it was legal in California, but it was, and it still is like this, but it was federally illegal. But like the DEA was, anyway, he ended up going to prison for 3.5 years. And he really didn't break any California laws, but whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Well, it's good that he paid his debt to society, him and all his victims.
Yeah. Anyway, actually, we're talking to him about it, and I would. He's in California now, but if he ever comes to Minnesota, I'd love to have him on the show because he's got an awesome story. And he wrote a book and everything, pretty cool. But he, when he went in, he was lean surfer dude, total whatever, and he came out and he's like, I can't swim. He just was jacked, and he's like, I fucking can't surf anymore. I'm too big. I can't swim. It's like, but he leaned down again. Yeah. So.
Yeah, even treading water is a lot of work.
I never learned how to do that. I can swim from point A to point B, but I've never been taught how to tread water. Never self-taught myself.
Huh.
I can tread water, and if I absolutely have to move around a little bit, like something terrible happens, like a little doggy style. That's about it.
I'm not a strong swimmer, but I can swim. I remember when I was like 15, I had this buddy who was a really awesome swimmer, and we were gonna meet these girls across the lake.
Yeah.
And he's like,
didn't you guys have to save the other kids or something?
No. So he's like, dude, let's swim across. And I was like, I don't fucking think that's a great idea. And he's like, come on. His name was Brad. Great swimmer. And I'm like, oh, fuck, all right. So we dive in. And I get about halfway and then decide, fuck it, I'm going to die. I'm just like, I can't swim anymore. And I'm just like, treading water, which really consisted of bobbing underneath it and then coming back up and gasping for air.
Brad goes home that night, and his parents are like, why are you so upset? He's like, man, I died. And they're like, swimming, wasn't it? When are you going to learn? Kids killed 8 other kids. He's went through 8 best friends. Oh, come on, let's go swim over here.
The story actually shows me in a much worse light. So Brad gets to the other side, realizes I'm drowning, jumps back in, swims back across, halfway across, gets me, and brings me all the way to the side we were trying to get to. And then we end up meeting up with the girls, and everything's going good, and there's some drinking going on. I'm making out with this chick, and then he trips and falls and smashes our heads together, right? And I beat the piss out of him.
You really did.
Yeah,
After
the guy that saved his life.
Within an hour or two of him saving my life, and still friends. But
it would have been the end of the friendship.
Well, it should have been, but. Yeah, it was just, I was a hot-headed 15-year-old,
I had a bad swimming story. My first time at a pool party, I think I was in 5th or 6th grade trying to impress a chick. It's like, I got this. Never swim. Just jumped in the deep end. Thinking I'm just supposed to naturally know what I'm doing. She had to jump in and save me.
That's even better, though.
She did, though. She jumped in and saved me, and then we became a couple after that for about 2 months until we got sick of each other. When you're young.
Young love.
Yeah.
2 months. That's a long-term relationship.
Right. Actually, it became. I got invited to the party and stuff, but then a buddy of mine hit her in the head with a kickball in gym class, and she was crying, and he didn't want to get told on, so he asked. She was like, "Well, if you hook me up with your friend." And so he called me and begged me and asked me if I'd date her. And me being the guy I was like, all right, I'll do it. So we only lasted
I'll take
about
one. I'll
2
take one
months.
for the team.
We were really close friends. Yep.
Yeah.
We actually met
That was
fighting.
awful nice. That was awful nice.
We met fighting too. Not like you and Brad. But his sister was like one of those school patrol guards in school that we used to have
yeah.
back in the day. I don't know if they still have them now, but it was a fight that broke out
Yeah,
in
they still
school,
have 'em.
and somebody ran and told him that I was fighting his sister, even though I was by the fight trying to break it up with her. But they thought that I was fighting his sister, so he came over, and me and him got into it. And then when we were in the principal's office, his dad had to come, my mom had to come, found out they both were officers and worked together and knew each other. So then we became really close friends from there. Yeah.
So we were talking about that before, how like you can't just fight anymore. You know, it's like
No.
Yeah, you can. People don't choose to, though.
Well,
or
it's
like
they come
kids,
down on
though.
you so fucking hard
like kids.
nowadays.
Like
you know?
when I was in school, man, like we had the fighting alley. You'd go to the alley and you'd
Man.
work it out. Like,
Yeah, like-
some of my best experiences.
two cats, like two dudes, like two teenage dudes in the parking lot, like just squaring some shit away, you know, like
Right.
And now, like, the cops would get involved
Right.
and fucking like
People
And
pressing
they
charges.
and the thing is, it's so
Yeah.
stupid
they'd
is
be in
because
counseling
like
and medicated. and
there's
shit.
no like the. I don't know about, well, I know the Brainerd School District, but all the school districts have like the zero tolerance, no bullying policy,
Yep.
which I think in essence is good, you know, but it seems like it's only enforced so arbitrarily against like actual physical contact. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's bullying going on constantly and bad and whatever, but it's
Well, the
like,
worst bullying in fucking when you're a kid is the shit that just makes you feel like inferior, you know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
like if you can't afford this, or like fucking like you don't like you like your parents don't place a fucking high value on like this brand of clothing or whatever, like shit like that fucks with a kid. I think that like man, I want to say, of course, maybe it's just because I was kind of a violent kid, but I was going to say maybe that's, you know, like I feel like that's more, that shit'll fuck with you more than like a bully that might fucking push you in the hallway or something like that.
especially,
you know?
I mean, I think that like there's that thing where you're bullied and then you like stand up, and even if you get your fucking ass kicked, you realize you're not
Yeah. You're not made of glass.
You're
You're,
not made
going
of
to be
glass,
okay.
yep.
You know, and you've got some self-respect because you fucking stood up for
and
yourself.
the respect you get from other people, even the bully typically is.
That's just tough, though, with the bullying aspect, because I feel like back in the day when I was younger, it was like that was just normal day-to-day stuff.
What was
people talk trash to
Bullying
you and
was
say
called
something, you
Tuesday,
say it back.
right? Exactly.
You
Yeah.
just don't sit there and cry and then I'm going to go to the principal
You know,
and
so trash
seek therapy,
talking is an
but
interesting subject, because down at the gym in St. Cloud, at Brock's gym, oh my God, the trash talking is just fucking epic. And Brock's like the best of it. You know, I mean, him and Tony Martin are trash talking.
Tony
over-
was a prolific shit
over
talker.
fucking cribbage. They're playing cribbage, and it's like the amount of trash talking is just off the charts. And I think that's so healthy. Like it's such a healthy gym, like in that sense, like because you know if you're talking mad trash that like it's something where I don't know.
I don't know. You've never seen a cookout then where a family of black people played spades or dominoes either then because trash talking is normal. I mean that's an everyday thing. I mean honestly, with certain groups of my friends, we were talking about Roy earlier and stuff. We can be playing bags. We
Right.
can be playing Farkle. We can be playing Yahtzee. It does not matter. Whatever we play is going to be trash talk.
Right. Flip
It's
a
gonna
coin.
be trash talk. Yep.
and but that makes the game more fun.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Until you get a lot of people at the beach staring at you, thinking you're about to fight, when it's just like this is.
Well,
just
and
what
the
we
fact
do.
is we might. I mean, that's part of it too. I have one more horrible Brad story. I feel kind of like I was an asshole to that kid. But did you see Pet Cemetery in the theater?
Yep.
The original-
Well, not in the,
The old
theater. I
one?
saw it, though.
Yeah, you'd have bet right.
The old one, yeah.
Yeah, the old
Yeah,
one.
it fucked
That
me up for life.
Fucking yeah, right. Was probably the
I
most
like scary
terrifying.
movies, so.
Well, how old were you? 15? 14, 15? Yeah, you were. I was. I mean, we're saying it.
Sure.
So, like 14, 15. And we just couldn't wait for Pet Cemetery to come out. And I am a fucking pussy when it comes to scary movies. Like I can suspend reality really well and whatever. Well, anyway, we're all in the theater. So I'm sitting right in the front row. We always sat in the front row. There's a couple of us. And my buddy Brad went up, got popcorn. and like snuck up behind me and like offered me popcorn in my ear, like, but really scary, like, hey, wants a popcorn? And I grabbed him and I like just completely without, I reached out and I flipped him over my chair and I slammed the bucket of popcorn on his head and was just, and I didn't have any idea. Like I thought it was a demon.
So you
know what
were
I mean?
the bully. That's why you're so
Totally.
against bullying.
No, I'm pro.
Oh,
Pro
bullying.
bullying. I'm not pro bullying. I wasn't. I mean, dude. Then okay, and then there was the time when
feel like, yeah,
then
see,
there was
there's
the
another
time when
Brad
he
story.
threw me down the hill and I landed in the piss hole and they all peed on me. Okay,
Oh, God.
this goes back and forth. All right. It was definitely
Nice.
a back and forth thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about. Enough about you. Let's talk about me.
Yeah, I dominated this thing.
So so Christina's going to change has yet to change her name on her driver's license since we got married. Now we were going to do it, and there's a fucking like huge line, like at the DMV and shit. Like so we're so it made me think about the whole fucking driver's license thing, and I'm like, because we get mail, like have you been to my apartment in Pequot? It's fucking.
Yeah, I think I've been over there once.
Like they got that fucking huge apartment, like it's 2,400 square feet, and of course we're always thinking about buying a house, whatever. But we're like, man, this apartment is fucking tough to beat. But it has no address.
Oh,
The business downstairs has an address, but the landlord just didn't really feel like fucking around, which is fine with us. We're like, okay, cool, we'll get a post office box. Well, on your driver's license, they won't accept a post office box.
yeah, you have to have a physical address.
So, and of course, it's the government. So, like anything, you can tell them all you want. Like, I can't get mail here. Here's my mailing address. Like fuck that. So I'm like, you won't accept a post office because you need to be able to like get a hold of me physically.
And the same organization somehow mismanaged the testing of the COVID virus.
Oh,
This seems weird.
Strange. Actually, maybe I have 3 things to talk about because I got a story about that too. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, now I have to
get
pay
tested?
for this fucking driver's license, and they don't accept a post office box. Why? Because you need to know physically where to come and fucking find me. Is that the deal? You know? Like,
Yeah.
So like,
That's what it is.
now, so I'm paying for basically like a fucking some kind of tag so you can track me down. Like, is that what that is? Because I think I'm just paying for a fucking license to drive, and
You're becoming a libertarian.
dude, I was worried about that because I'm like, no, I sound like one of those fucking nut jobs, but
You
it
do.
pisses me off.
I agree with the whole license thing. I don't get why it expires because it's not like you are going to stop being you until you're dead.
Right?
So you're going to make me go wait until another long line.
I'm sorry, this doesn't cut it for us.
No.
What? It's me. That's me. That's my.
It's just like the bars. When you go down there with the expired license, yeah, it's expired, but that doesn't mean this is not me. So why can't you let me in?
That's why, like, most of the time, it's unless we're looking
Actually,
for an excuse to
I
keep.
took a
keep somebody
compliance
out.
class that they said actually it doesn't matter if it's expired because it is still them, and you.
Yeah.
And there was a sheriff that said that too. So,
Exactly.
but
You
I
can
just
use
don't
it as
get
an
some
excuse
places
if you
do
want
that.
to.
Yeah, you can. You can. Yep.
But yeah. So
I thought the reason you couldn't use an expired license was because they were afraid you gave it to somebody else. So it's not really you.
But if you can tell that person's definitely
Yeah.
them. If I come in with a group of white guys, I'm the only black guy with expired ID.
You're out.
Why wouldn't you let me in? Who else is
Although-
this? Who else is this out of the whole group of people I'm with?
I did use a black guy's ID to get into Moose Country one time.
How did you pull that
they-
one off?
because the bouncer
Blackface,
did-
obviously.
Like,
No, I hope not.
like we're going through the fucking there's like a line of us, and it was all people from the gym that I was working at down there, and they're just like going, and I was like, man, my fucking ID is in Brainerd, and then and of course one of my buddies is like, use mine, and I'm like, okay, fucking actually, I'm like, they're not gonna ask for my ID, No, they did. They just didn't even fucking look at it. Well, didn't look at me anyway. They're like,
I
"Thanks."
don't really look at the
Thanks.
picture.
Yeah.
Thanks. And I'm like, God damn. I'm like, I just got in
Yeah.
using his fucking
I just
ID.
look for under 21. Like when I like under 21, then check the date. That's it. And like I don't know that I've ever like looked at the picture and said, Is that you? So you probably could hand me.
Well,
it could be the wrong sex.
And
It
see,
could
like,
be,
I can
mean,
see now because, like, I'm, who the fuck's gonna ID me? I'm old as fuck. But this was like when I was in my like mid 20s and shit, and still getting ID'd all the time with that baby face and stuff. But
That baby. Had to throw that one in there.
you know, ageless wonder. But no, that COVID thing though. I went to the doctor. I emailed first to ask about the antibodies test to see if I'd already had it.
Oh.
And they were like, yeah, just make an appointment. No. So I had other things to talk to him about too. I hadn't been to the doctor in like 6 months. So I go in and get like routine blood work and shit like that. And I thought that fucking antibodies test. Yesterday, I'm like, I messaged him. I'm like, I could go on the My Health thing, and I'm like, hey, how long does it take to get the results for that anyway? Hear back from my doctor, and he's like, about that. Yeah, we didn't really do that test. He's like, yeah, sorry about that. Like it was on there. They were supposed to do it. And I'm like, fuck. Why do I want to go in there and get more blood work done? No. Like fucking, I always brag about how awesome my doctor is, and he is awesome. But man, I was like waiting for a week, and I'm like, cool. Because I'm, about to fucking, be around a lot of, like, 4th of July weekend's coming up.
Yep.
I'm going to be around a lot of dumbass, drunken fucking people, like.
And it would be nice to know if you have antibodies.
I would feel a lot better if I, like, I know it's not a fucking, it's not magical. It won't absolutely prevent you from getting it, but it'll, like, super decrease your chances. And if you do get it, you won't get it that bad. So, yeah, I'd feel, and that's why, I got tested in the first place. And now I'm like, well, I can make an appointment and I can get in, but by the time I fucking got in, because I'll be working on like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday next week. So I'm like, well, by the time I get it, but by the time I make an appointment and then get in and shit like that and fucking
Before the weekend will be passed already. Yep.
Thanks for fucking nothing, But yeah, so that sucked.
Yeah, it is crazy that the same organization that requires you to have a physical address and won't mail to your P.O. box did such a wonderful job on the COVID testing.
Is it the DMV?
What's the gov? It's the whole thing.
The DMV does the testing.
That's
why they were closed.
It's the entire system.
They're the ones that poured bleach on my butthole.
Is it?
What?
You remember that whole fucking like household cleaners thing, injecting household cleaners and shit like that? And
are you kidding me? I brought a syringe and a fucking bottle of Perel to the podcast. I was gonna.
Yes.
I've never seen that.
I was like, I'm gonna. Well, it was when Trump was saying like.
Mention
when everybody was running around drinking bleach and stuff.
Well, yeah, he was saying he was saying, well, couldn't maybe someone you could just inject it or whatever, some stupid shit he said, and so I was just making a joke that we should inject it.
No.
Yeah, nothing surprises me about him now.
God no.
I fucking did you see the thing where he was like talking about how fucking George Floyd is looking down and is so happy because it was
a good day
because
for him.
the economic numbers are so good. I
didn't see that.
Oh my god.
How does that go hand in hand though?
Right.
Like he
so
would
this
be
was
more
like,
happy to look down and see like reforms and
you think
different
Right.
laws
but
and
come on,
statutes
the
change.
economic numbers are terrific.
Instead, he's just glad that the stockholders are getting their fucking, like, the dipshit's not going to have to sell his 4th summer home or whatever.
It was the most like disrespectful and like really asinine thing I think the man has ever said. And
Really?
that is
the bar is high, my friend.
Exactly.
The bar is high.
This was
say,
the day of George Floyd's funeral, and he
that's even
he
worse.
specifically was asked by George Floyd's family to not mention him in his address, and then he says, "Oh, I know George Floyd's just looking down at us, and he's just so happy because the numbers are terrific," and it's like, and I got like physically ill. I was like, "Oh." Fuck, this ain't good. Like, I felt like I was going to vomit my fucking
Then he's
soul
like,
out.
hey, now I'm going to celebrate Juneteenth by going and shitting on Tulsa.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Which,
I saw him trying to do his rally.
in Tulsa.
So,
We're fucking...
speaking of that whole thing, did you guys watch the Dave Chappelle's
I haven't watched the new one
846.
yet. Nope.
It's not really. It's not a comedy.
Yeah, it's just a half hour, and
Oh, okay. No,
it's
I haven't
very light on comedy.
That's-
But man, I'll listen to fucking Dave Chappelle. Like I'll listen to him fucking do it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like fucking.
But it was really, really powerful.
yeah,
And he talks about George Floyd, and it talks about it was really powerful, really, really.
and his
it's
following,
important.
like those people, like I don't feel like nobody that went there. Like, yep, they only laughed a couple of times. They're okay with that, you know.
Yeah,
like
it was.
But he has that type of like, that's just his energy.
yeah,
Dave Chappelle, he's gonna draw a crowd because of his name, and you know what you're gonna get. Like
Yeah.
even in his stand-up comedy, he still has a lot of stuff
Oh.
about politics.
hell
and,
yeah.
I mean, this was almost like a public statement. You know, it was neat.
I fucking loved it.
I loved
you know,
it too.
like I just
I watched it twice.
and I can't get
I
in,
haven't watched it once. I need to watch it.
I can't
Yeah,
get
it's
enough
just
of
on
people
YouTube.
fucking like him bagging on like fucking Candace Owens and shit.
So he said,
Oh,
"Kick her in
thank
the
God.
kick her in
I-
the stinky cunt," and then
I
he's like,
fucking hate
I'm not
Candace
sure.
Owens
I'm
so
not.
fucking
He
much.
says something like he's gonna kick her in the stinky cunt, and he's like, "Actually, I don't know if her cunt is stinky, but I have to assume it is."
I definitely got to watch it though. I usually watch all his projects.
Yeah, I don't
He's
even.
good entertainer.
Oh yeah, my buddy Steve Johnson sent it to me, and he's like, "Hey, you really need to watch this. Don't expect to laugh." And I was like, "Huh, interesting way to put it." So I watched it, and it was pretty awesome.
I love that, like, these people that he fucking can't stand, you know, like Candace Owens and shit, like, he doesn't fucking dance around. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He will straight up say, like, horrendous shit about these people and fucking be like, fuck that. I hate, you know, and,
Yep.
and like, let you know how he feels about that fucking person.
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't see a lot of that in Hollywood. People don't really do that shit. Like,
Well,
especially on
he's
stage.
as far from fucking Hollywood as
Yeah,
possible.
that's
I mean,
true.
I mean, he's in Ohio, A, and B, he doesn't. Yeah, you know.
I mean, he made it in Hollywood, but that didn't change him as a person.
Well-
Well, and that's the good part
And
about it.
he's reached a level of success where he can say whatever the fuck he wants. That's got to be pretty liberating.
I think that's a lot of part of comedy too, though. Like a lot of that, you
Yeah.
have to be able to feel free to be able to say whatever you want. Like if you can't laugh at a lot of that stuff, even the rough stuff, if you can't laugh at it, then maybe you need to check your own self.
Yeah, because it won't be funny.
Yeah.
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 And I mean, I think that it's difficult for comedians. Like, I think that there's definitely like something that's very liberating about a comedian when they get to the point financially where they just don't need to give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
Like it becomes a little more freeing. But I mean, thing about Dave that I find so intriguing is that when he had the Chappelle show and was like making bank and everything was great, he was like,
Yep.
and just walked away,
Yep.
which was super weird.
Yeah. You
Well,
don't.
that
Nobody's
was
ever
because
done that
of.
before.
I think that was the same thing as far as like his values and his integrity as a person.
Yeah.
They were trying to force him to do skits and do things that he wasn't comfortable doing.
Yep, it was that, and it was also just they were like he felt like he said that he felt like it was just sucking more out of him than he was willing to give, and
Yeah.
he was able to. But very few people are able to walk
Walk away from something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yep.
But
So-
you know
from
that
that
level of
success.
success, you know, everything's on your own terms. I don't know how much he got from Netflix for those comedy specials,
Oh, I think he did okay.
but I think it was substantial.
Yeah,
It was a pretty good contract. They had the numbers out, I thought, at one point.
dude, I thought that was a big thing with Netflix. Or maybe he just said them. But the thing about Netflix is they're like super secretive about like what they never tell you, like they'll never tell you how many people watch something or anything like that. It's like part of their deal, which is interesting because
Because they don't want to make other people mad. Like if you're just
I don't know.
another big name person and I just gave somebody else more money than I gave you. They actually had some issues going on with that with
Oh,
like some
yeah.
female comedians. The females weren't getting paid as much as the male comedians, even though they might have been in the game longer and had bigger followings and stuff.
But so I think that might be part of it. So Netflix is keeping their numbers quiet because it gives them more leverage in their contract negotiation.
Could be.
I know I did hear something about Dave saying how he got whatever he did 1.3 million for the thing, and then somebody else got 1.5 million, and he was like, bitch, I should have asked for two, because he was like, he at the time was the most anybody
Yeah.
had ever been paid for a special or whatever. So that's pretty fucking crazy. So how have you been doing with all of this fucking craziness? Have you followed all of the shit?
I followed a lot of it that's been going on. Of course, we deal with it day to day too, though. So
Right.
It's hard to not follow a lot of the stuff that you've always dealt with. We actually talked about a lot of this on
You
the
cannot follow
last
it,
time I
but it
was
still
here.
might follow
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, the last time I was here, we talked about a lot of this, the different racial issues. That's why it's crazy to see, like, a year later now, it's being more televised and more people are opening their eyes to it, or even whether they choose to or not, it's still right in front of you. You got to see it.
Well, one thing you said to us on the first time you were here that like I have not been able to get out of my fucking head and like have thought about and talked to many people about is you were saying how, you know, when you were down in Florida, in Miami, you came from Miami, and you know, obviously Miami's the South and is, you know, whatever.
Yep.
But when you came to Minnesota, like your experience of racism was much higher here
Yep.
than there.
Yep.
And I was like, whoa, what? No fucking way. Really? Like that really shocked me. And then I start to like have thought about that over the last year and have kind of tried to have my eyes a little more open to the, and then you like, the fucking Minneapolis Police Department might be the most racist organization in the fucking
Minnesota.
it might be one of the most racist organizations in the country. I mean, I
we still can't forget about the KKK. though, so.
I mean, what I mean by that is I mean
And the,
like
and the GOP.
I mean police organizations in the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like shit, I just watched John Oliver's last week tonight. He did one a couple weeks ago on police, right? You know, and he did a great job. But he was pointing out some of the shit about the Minneapolis police force. And there's, I don't want to. I'm getting this wrong, but we're spitballing here. But I think it was 2 years ago. 3 officers were suspended for fucking putting up a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And in the station, and it was decorated with a bunch of fucking like malt liquor cans and fucking what was all on it? It was a bunch
Just
of
a bunch of shit like that. People that
redneck.
associated with fucking.
So they end up getting fired, and of course, they're not fired.
Yeah.
They fired them, and then the union, whatever. And that was part of what they're pointing out is the problem with the union and everything of how like it's actually so hard to get rid of a police officer.
And I'm very pro union, but I don't think I'm. Like I think those police unions that go to bat for those guys even when they're fucking like clearly a piece of shit, you know, like really you're gonna throw your union fucking muscle around and get this fucking turd back on the street, you know, like that shit ain't right, man.
And that's the good and bad about unions. That's just, I mean, the union's there to protect certain people, and unfortunately they protect people even when they're in the wrong because that's part of their job.
One problem I have with the police union is the amount of power. So, like, let's say you're a teacher and you are in a teachers union, and the teachers union is going to bat for you. Your leverage against to like you can strike as a teacher and say like, okay, I'm not going to teach your kids. Okay, well that's bad. I mean, it sucks. We know our kids taught, right? But that's my lever, right? The lever that the police have is we're not going to enforce the law. And that's a lever that most people can't imagine being.
Well, and we've heard a lot about that when we talk about like defunding and stuff like that, which people totally misunderstand what defunding.
It's like, oh, they're get rid of the police department and then see how well Minneapolis and all these other neighborhoods will do. It's like they're not getting rid of the whole damn department. They're just taking away their brand new cars and some of the money and putting it towards community-based activities.
Right.
Because a lot of the I was talking to somebody about this last week or so. The schools in the in certain under-resourced neighborhoods don't do great because the neighborhoods aren't thriving. They don't have a lot of money to go into the schools. So they don't have all those activities and programs to keep kids out of trouble or things to keep them on a better path, to keep the different gaps from being even worse than they are in a bigger decline for as far as educational gaps.
Right.
But then the schools we have a school here. You know, you have a lot of old, rich, retired people and just people that do well off money-wise from land and farming and just everything. Our schools have all type of programs.
Right.
And uniforms on top of uniforms for every program and then a program for a program I mean, and even the after school programs that are just ridiculously funded. Teachers get paid probably more here than they do in certain neighborhoods. If you look at the parking lot at even the middle school here compared to the parking lot at Minneapolis North or some little hood school or something like that, and you know,
Right.
you can see the huge
And even if
difference
there
there.
isn't, even if they aren't getting paid more, the cost of living is so
It's so
much
much.
different
Yep.
too, that there's that differential.
Yep.
But I'm not saying, I would never say that teachers are getting paid too much in any place, but I feel like
They
they're
get paid
definitely
enough.
getting underpaid
Yep.
in many places. I don't know. It's a really difficult one.
Well,
But
they see the kids more than the parents.
yeah,
Typically.
dude, that's something I've really
Yeah.
been, I don't know what the right word is. I feel like it's really been a fucking interesting experiment with this whole like distance
Distance learning,
learning
yep.
thing.
Parents going crazy. I'm ready for my kid to go back to school, and it's like, well,
Hey, I think that it has
Told
really-
you your kid sucks.
I think it's really showed parents how valuable fucking teachers are.
Man, right?
Because
I don't think they're gonna care though. I've been thinking
Which
about
part?
that too and spinning it around. And I'm like, I feel like it shows them, okay, this is what the teachers deal with every day. This is why I get phone calls all the time. But when they go back to school, it's like, I'm just so glad you're gone. And it's gonna be, I think it's gonna revert to the same stuff all over again. I don't see everybody really understanding it.
I feel like it definitely. I am not smart enough to like know what the actual like long term like waves will be from this, but what I definitely know is that right now the average person who's had their children at home have went, holy fuck, like get these fucking things out of here, and for that reason have been like have felt the value of teachers
But
more than ever before.
I think it's very human to like feel the value of them while you're in that situation. But like that first day you drop them off, as you're driving away, you're going to be like,
Yeah.
suck it, fuckers.
Maybe,
Yeah, I
but I
agree.
do think that let's say that going forward, let's say that that teachers were going to strike, and
Right?
like then it
People would be like, oh, no, no, no,
fucking
no, 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 no.
terrify.
No, you fucking
like,
don't.
No. Yeah, I ain't doing no goddamn homeschooling, right? Like that. So it's like, but one inequity, and it's a small one. I mean, there's so many inequities that this seems like almost a petty inequity, but it is like something that was real. Is that like you have the you have person A whose children are at home, distance learning, and parents are home because they're at home because like they're whatever. And then you have the other people who are like essential workers. And I dealt with this personally. Meta, she was an essential worker, so she was going to work every day at the school. She works as a lunch lady, and then her kids weren't home. They were going to another school for like daycare.
Daycare. Yep.
But the people that were doing the daycare at the school were not allowed to help them with their homework, right? The kids could do their homework there, but it was the aides or whatever, the people that were couldn't help them. And the reasoning behind it, and it makes sense, is that if the aides were helping them, that would give them an unfair advantage against other kids who are just at home.
Home doing it. Yeah.
But the problem
sense.
is that if person A is at home with their kids and is there and helping them, and B, the kids are in this daycare for 8 hours a day, and then go home and have to then have parent who's already been working all day, kid who's been in daycare all day. Now you got to try to help them with their homework. It's really difficult. Wasn't too bad with Meta's kids because they're really bright. They were really on the ball. They did well. They're great kids.
Yeah, but that's
That's
them,
not
you
the
know.
average
And
kid.
as
It's not.
as a resident, as a person that's lived most of my life around here, I think that it kind of should almost go without saying that these kids' parents are the last fucking people you want helping them with their homework, because they're gonna like, what's 2 + 2? Jello.
some of them
Fucking
are.
like
Okay, so
Some
I'm definitely that guy though. I remember it wasn't that long.
math.
It wasn't that long ago when my youngest son is 18 now and has graduated high school. But like I can remember when he would be struggling with whatever, and I'd be like, oh fuck, I got.
Oh, we've
I got
all been
nothing.
there.
I have.
Let me see if I can help you.
No idea.
Slide the book
what
away
you're
from
talking-
you. Like, well, fuck that.
I've
You're on
always
your-
been
you're on your
really
own.
good at math, so that one I didn't struggle with. With
Well, it
distance
wasn't
learning.
necessarily just math; it just anything I had a hard time with. But I do remember him bringing home. He had some kind of social study. It was a kind of a history thing he brought home, and I got pissed off. And like the next thing you know, we're like watching like fucking hardcore history with Dan Carlin. And
Oh,
I'm
with some whitewashed bullshit.
I
that
was
he brought
like,
home?
this is not how fucking World War I started. Fuck this thing. I'm through the textbook. So I'm like, and he's like, thanks, Dad. Can I go to bed now? No. You know, I'm like,
You're gonna read Howard Zinn.
yeah, we are fucking in now. But yeah, what do you have school age kids at?
Yeah.
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 And how did the distance learning go for you?
My daughter, she did pretty good. I think the toughest part of it was actually turning in assignments
Right.
because they have the Chromebooks, and when you do the work, you can do the work and not submit it and think that, oh, I did my work, so everything's fine. So you're thinking that, oh, it's fine until the teacher sends a text message or something and like, hey, I haven't got all these assignments from your kid. And like, I saw her do these assignments. I sat there and did a couple of these with her. Then you go find out, oh, you didn't click submit
Wow.
because there's another section. And that's how I don't know how everybody else did theirs, but a lot of schools used Google Classroom. And,
Right.
and that's where a lot of that was actually working through that and making sure you actually submitted the work, or in some cases you had to go, it'll send you to a different site and making sure you actually attached it. So that was the biggest issue that I had.
That's kind of just like a technical problem that
Yeah.
they should be able to figure out.
Oh, well, it was more so like a user error because we just weren't clicking submit all the time.
Well.
Sometimes I was trusting her to do it. So, and so you just had to
How
make
old
sure
your
that she was
daughter?
submitting. She's 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it was that.
And then she has her brother too. So he's might not be the best as far as like listening, but he actually does good in school. So
Really?
yeah. So he was fine too with his work, but that's like you said, that's not everyone.
That's not everyone.
And that's different expectations for me too, because I taught for years and I work in a school system, and I have some familiarity with Google Classroom because we use it at our schools. That's not every parent. Some parent, this
Right.
is like a foreign thing I'm throwing at you and saying, hey, you got to get your kid logged in. You got to get this stuff done, and it needs to be done here. Well, I mean, at our school, I remember a parent went ranting and raving on Facebook. I don't have Facebook, but part of my position deals with like a lot of the kids' attendance and stuff like that. So I saw that a bunch of kids weren't even logging in, weren't getting work done. So then people like send me messages of Facebook rants. And one parent was like, yo, they closed the school. It's not our job to sit there and educate our kids. That's why they have the degrees, and that's where they're teachers. If they close the schools, then they should just keep them closed. I can't get my kid to do any work. But then when, for one, schools didn't close. The buildings physically are closed, but schools are still open. That's why you have a laptop, and that's why you're given internet devices to get your kids' work done. And I think that's just a struggle too with a lot of parents because it's like
because
the
it's
accountability.
fucking, like the thing is like people like don't realize how kind of shitty their kids are sometimes until they're faced with it. I mean,
They don't want. Some of them know it, but it's different with them. It's like, oh, that's just my kid. That's how they are. But you're not going to sit up there and deal with my kid this way. That's my job,
Right.
even though I'm not going to do it.
right. I know my sister, who is a teacher in St. Cloud, but she works with, kids that are, really rough. Like she works with the roughest.
So she does
of the
like
rough.
ALC, alternative learning, or is it like special education stuff?
God, I hate it when people ask me questions about my sister because I totally should know these answers. And we've even talked to her a couple times on this show. I don't exactly know what it is, but I know it's a really tough job. And she works with really rough kids. And what she said was that, what her job really is building relationships. That's all.
Okay.
It's not like, yes, she's a teacher, but what she's really doing is building relationships with these kids. And that became very difficult during this time where she
Yep.
couldn't, because they don't, like that's the only way to get to them is to build this relationship, and that it was really difficult for her to do during this.
And that was tough to see
COVID
with
thing.
me working in the school system. I had some kids because part of my job is a school counselor, making sure that they are prepared for college and stuff, taking kids on visits. And I had some kids that went from not knowing what they wanted to do in life, and I'm not going to college because I don't even know what I want to do. So they're screwing off in high school, but then going on these visits and showing them different schools and different places that and different opportunities that they can be a part of and experience. If they graduate, you can go here, you can go here. This is what they have. Take them to sports games at the colleges and stuff. And some kids turned their act around and started doing better in school. But then we had this COVID hit and schools shut down, and now they're not even logging in on their computers at all. And I'm like, man, it sucks to see the progress of kids moving in the right direction. And then this happened. And I know it was a struggle for everybody. It was a struggle for teachers and staff, too, to get used to doing this because, like, you know, that I'm about building the relationships, too, and that's the best way to encourage the kids to make sure they continue to come to school.
And I mean, and you're young and you know, computer savvy and all that stuff. And I mean, but you have a 60-year-old, you know, teacher that has that, like,
which we had that too.
That,
our
like,
math teacher, she struggled for a bit.
I mean, I remember, I mean, my dad's a little older now, and he has lost his fucking mind. But when he was living with me still, and, you know, he still kind of mostly had his shit together, I bought him an iPhone, and it was like he could not figure out how to just swipe it to open it up. And I mean, like, I showed him 1,000 times, and I was like, okay, fuck it. But I mean, the older you get, the harder it seems to be able to, like, use some of the technology and stuff. I mean, shit, I struggled with it on just at my work, just Teams. We used Microsoft Teams, and I don't know, that was my fault, actually. I think they were fucking it up. But like they're like, oh, we have a Teams meeting today, and you go and you log into Teams. Well, there's nothing there. You have to be invited to the meeting, and I was like, nobody sent out an invite. There is nothing here, and then it was just like,
they use Zoom for Christine's work.
I
a
use
lot
Zoom
and stuff,
a lot too, and
people
Zoom
still
Hangouts.
People still
Zoom
fuck
is
Zoom
pretty
up and everything,
easy
too.
compared, but Microsoft Teams is all like, it's all fucking secure and like because it's one of those, and you know, and we're also like anal about, you know, good, you know, like we should be about confidentiality
HIPAA,
and HIPAA. And we are not HIPAA, but yeah, confidentiality issues. But but the more you put on that, the harder it gets. I was actually just listening to Freakonomics today, and they're talking about televisits for doctors' offices, and one of the things that they did, they relaxed the federal regulations on what they needed to do to have televisits during the COVID thing, because before a fucking doctor couldn't do a Zoom meeting with you because both ends weren't secure.
Well, a therapist could.
I don't
know if it
pre-COVID.
was Zoom meetings, but I had because I have anxiety and stuff, and I had to take
televisits
therapy.
through you.
So I've done televisits with a therapist.
Huh. Well, I don't know, but they were saying on that Freakonomics that they lightened the federal regulations for televisits, and that's one of the reasons why that's been so, like, prolific. I actually did a televisit a while, or televisit seems like a weird word because it's video.
Yeah.
I FaceTimed my doctor, but it was through Zoom, but you know, fucking worked out great.
It's better than the OnlyFans account. The
Dude,
insurance covers it, and now they can just tell you to put your balls on the screen and cough.
Right.
which I do anyway. So
I don't even need to touch them. Just put them on the screen and cough. Let me see how they move.
Pull it to the right. It was actually kind of fun because I'm pretty good friends with my doctor. We trained together and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I started going to see him, because I had every injury I have is jiu-jitsu related. And so I started seeing him because I was having jiu-jitsu issue, related problems. And it's really hard to explain to a fucking normal person, like, okay, so this guy was on top of me and he was trying to rip my arm off, and for some reason my shoulder hurts. He was what? But
sir, we don't judge.
Dr. Trueblood, at least, it is really competent, knows what he's doing. But it was really fun. Plus, he had nothing else to do. I was his only visit that day.
Oh.
He was like, because that was in that beginning time when it was like, so we just sat and chatted for a while. So it was cool, and I was able to get my, he also was he also doctored me. He did a great job, but we were just sat and chatted for a while.
You know how long it takes to get a fucking MRI? Speaking of shoulders,
Oh, I've done that.
I gotta get one. I gotta get a fucking MRI on my shoulder, and I couldn't get one until like the 15th of July.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was an appointment on the 10th, but that didn't work for me. So now I'm doing it on the 15th. No, and my doctor, he's a fucking genius. This made a lot of sense to me. So I'm like, I didn't fucking do anything to it. Like, I didn't hurt it. I didn't have some accident or like blow it out or whatever. Like, I'm like, but just after like not lifting weights for a few months, all of a sudden it's fucking killing me. And he's like, well, he's like this, you know, when the gyms were shut down and you weren't lifting weights for several months, he's like, when was the last time you went several months without lifting weights? You know, he's like, we don't know how old this injury is. He's like, this might be fucking, you could have had this in college. Like, you don't even know. And he's like, but you had all that muscle and like so shit might've been compensating for that injury.
Makes sense. Yep.
And then all of a sudden you're not lifting for months, all that muscle atrophies and it's not pulling all the extra weight and shit. Now your shoulders, you know, now you're feeling it. And I'm like, fuck, that makes sense. You know?
I still kind of want to inject you with peptides and see what happens.
I want to try that shit. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm in.
You're laughing. You have no idea what I'm talking about.
I want no part of being around anything of injecting anything.
I had a horrible tennis elbow. And it was probably 7 months ago. Maybe it was bad. I couldn't even like pick up my coffee cup. I couldn't get it. I couldn't pick my coffee cup up and bring it to my mouth. It was too painful.
We thought his tennis career was over.
Yeah, and I found this like weird drug, this peptide, and you inject it right into the tendon,
and it worked for you.
Fucking amazingly. I did it like 3 weeks, and I went 100. I was 100%.
Should have just laced it with a little bit of bleach too, and got rid of the COVID.
Well, I
also.
did. I mean, I was putting a little bleach in there.
You figure out how to do a shoulder.
I don't want to. I think we just shove it in there and see what happens. I mean,
You know?
but it's super.
It's also the name of
It's
my
totally
sex tape.
legal. It's not illegal, you know, and it's cheap. It's like, you know, but it's like it says right on it, you know, not for human consumption, for research use only or whatever. So it's like
So
it's
there's
just
a lot
like
of
fucking
fun stuff.
It's just like fucking rolling the dice. But dude, it was amazing. It was amazing.
What is it used for normally then?
Oh my god, I've explained this so many times, but I'll explain it real quick. So, the peptide, if you ever get like an ulcer, or like you have upset stomach, you know, you take Peptid AC, right? Peptide is a amino acid that surrounds your stomach, okay? And its job is to heal the lining of your stomach before your stomach acid eats through it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, a doctor a while ago was like, "Hey, that's interesting. I wonder what would happen if we were to extract that peptide out of a mouse and then crush its tendon and then inject that peptide into the tendon, because basically the job of that peptide is to hyper heal this shit. And the lining of the stomach is pretty close to a tendon or ligament." Yeah. So, they did it. Mouse got better. Holy fuck, this is crazy. It can't get FDA. It can't be whatever. It's not a drug. It actually they're having a really hard time getting through the FDA. But anyway, it's actually just a really simple chain of amino acids. So people started experimenting with it, and a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of heavy weightlifters or whatever, found like just ridiculous results with it. But essentially, what it does is you inject it as close to the injured area as it can. The peptide runs around searching for something to heal. It finds the closest ligament or tendon, and then just goes to work and heals it. It sounds like fucking fairy juice, but it's awesome.
It does sound like fairy juice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that fairy juice.
Yeah.
Your shoulder hurts that bad? Might as well.
Oh, dude, and man, I can't.
Let me know how it works.
But speaking of not working out, I fucking feel pretty good. I haven't gone this long without training in my adult life, and maybe one other time, but I was starting the Shine.
Yeah.
And of course I gained, fucking 60 pounds and just like was as unhealthy as I could possibly be. This is the first time in my life where I've had this much time where I haven't trained. I don't have any injuries. I fucking feel great. I don't remember what it was like to not have injuries.
People realize how much wear and tear that training and stuff has on your body.
Shit, I know. And now it's getting to the point where it's time to get back to it. The gym is opening. I don't know exactly what's going on with UMA at this point. They're starting out real small, but I haven't signed back, or I haven't come back teaching yet, just because there's not enough students and whatever. But I'm like, oh my God, that's going to be a fucking uphill battle. Just everybody else has been sitting on their ass too, but they probably been sitting on their ass a little less than I have.
Gonna be just like going back to work after all this.
I don't know about that. I got something. So my shirt. Did you guys read it? Somebody read it out loud. I can't.
Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable.
So that's a little JFK.
Thanos.
Quote
like
there.
Thanos.
Inevitable.
But yeah,
Nice.
I found this. I think I heard about it on Joe Rogan or something. But we were talking the other week about the pressure cooker,
Yeah.
like and how like if you don't have a pressure release valve in the pressure cooker and it just goes and goes and goes, eventually it explodes. And that's kind of what I think is happening. What's happened in Minneapolis with the protests is that there just hasn't been a way to. There hasn't been a release valve, and it's starting to overflow. And I was like, it's interesting because I thought, oh my God, JFK thought the same thing. I mean, that's definitely the same. And I think that's what's happened. And I went down to the 9th Street the other night and ran into his honor, Dave Badeau.
His Excellency.
His Excellency.
I talked to him a couple of weeks ago too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, and he saw, and me and Dave, we clash a little bit, I mean, we were always, but I was like, oh, how are you, Your Highness, and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, I like your shirt. I said, oh, yeah, your campaign's coming up pretty quick. We could do one for you just like this. It'll just say Jesus fucks fishes. And then we could just use the same, picture, but with a much bigger jowl. And he's like, you fucking asshole. But it's pretty funny. So I wanted to remember to talk about that.
No, I had a conversation with Dave about exactly all this stuff that was going on, because a while back I'm like, I've been in this town. I coach sports and do stuff around here, and then you have like it's white led. Like, and it's no offense, not saying nobody's great or anything, but I'm like, we have a big, not big, but we have a population of minorities in this town that don't really have a voice in this town. And I was like, we need to start going to city council meetings and speaking up and having an equal voice in what's going on. And it needs to be some different change, because I think this town's been run by like a lot of older white men for so many years.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think that there's ever been a minority on the city council in Brainerd that I know of.
And I don't know if I'll go that far to get on there or do that, but I have been talking to him about like trying to go to meetings and get more involved, because it needs to happen. It should happen.
Really?
Especially after that racist rant that teacher went on in Brainerd.
Oh my God. I fucking forgot about that.
Me too.
Because it's been so long since we met,
Yeah.
but that's all
And there's so
did.
much more shit always coming down the fucking pike,
Yeah.
man.
That's all I did
It's-
for like a week was fucking read that bitch's shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep. I signed the petition.
Yeah. Okay. So
No, but that was nuts. Yeah.
if you don't know, and I actually have like notes on this,
I don't,
but I
must
don't know
have it
where
on
they
my
are.
phone.
Do you remember her name?
No. Supposedly she resigned though.
She did.
Yeah.
But I thought that was crappy too, because I'm like, hopefully they decline her resignation and then fire her. Because it's like, if you resign, you kind of gracefully get out of the situation.
Well,
when you put yourself in that
So
situation.
maybe people out there don't know what happened. But basically, there was this teacher for the Brainerd School District who kind of went off on like a really fucking like tirade of
yeah.
racist rants, and then the person she was it was on a Facebook stream, and the person whose Facebook stream she had it on screenshot it, thankfully, or else it would have not existed. And then the teacher ended up deleting it, but then the screenshot still existed and got released.
And they started a petition
started
right
a petition,
away.
yeah.
And yep.
And I was like, what the fuck? Like, this bitch got to get together with the bitch on the fucking board member, the board
that-
president who
that city council.
yeah, who
was it city
It was
council?
the board, the school
Well,
board
yeah,
president
school board.
who said we shouldn't teach fucking evolution. I mean,
Yeah.
like these two bitches get together.
just a
Is it
theory.
like fucking when they play fucking
It was nuts. 'cause
backgammon on Wednesdays? or
Once I
what?
saw the actual messages, because like I said, I don't have Facebook, but everybody always updates me with stuff, so I don't need it.
Right.
And I just started seeing the messages, and there's just the language she used was like calling black scary, and then
you know, I feel like we definitely should read those.
You know,
So we
it's
can
not a
really
bad
talk
idea.
about
Pull
it.
them up.
So yeah, let's take a quick break and let's find them. I can pull them up on my computer too.
Sure.
And then let's read them because they're worth like quoting exactly.
Yeah.
It's fucking batty ass shit.
And it'll be and hopefully then people will be relieved because they'll know that the area has found found the racist in the area. And
Yeah,
they,
so
No,
one-
they found one.
No, she's the only
You know,
one.
that's
They
just the
found
one.
one.
It's just
it was
one.
just the one. Come on.
But
Ace,
somebody
come
else.
on.
But then somebody followed up on the school page.
Oh, are you trying to
see
make
that?
the argument that one bad apple spoils the bunch?
no,
Trust me.
No, not at all.
Dudes I went to high school with will tell you
We'll talk about
racism
that
isn't
later
a deal.
too.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right. Welcome back to Spitballing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Matt Taylor here with my good buddy.
Kyle Amundsen.
And we got Ace Collie in the house. We're going to talk about some race relation shit right now.
Yep.
So,
Welcome to Ask a Black Man.
yeah. So this is something that we intended to talk about before, and then we had our little hiatus. But now I'm so glad that we held off so we can talk about it with you, Ace. So I'm going to read this article from the Twin Cities Pioneer Press here. Brainerd, Minnesota, Forest View Middle teacher Carrie Hall resigned Wednesday after widespread concerns over social media statements, many deemed racist. The comments on Facebook post shared by a former Lakes area resident detailing her experience among protesters in Minneapolis following the death of George Floyd in police custody on May 25th. Was he really in police custody at the time? I think they were just... Anyway, okay. Comments include, this is in quotes, "I know all I see are scary, awful blacks, people, robbing businesses that don't deserve this." It's pretty well written.
Sometimes it's hard to find businesses to rob that do deserve it. You know?
Well,
just-
and then she's in the education field, but she's an art teacher, so maybe that's why she.
I just
Didn't
thought
write that
blacks
very well.
people. But yeah, that came off good. Another comment from Hall criticizing Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and calling for law and order to be restored included, "The creepy, destructive, violent blacks are all across America watching, raid, and ruin businesses across America need to be put in jail."
For what it's worth, I know you're violent and destructive, but I don't consider you creepy at all.
I don't know.
It's
Wait,
just.
I only read like the first one. I didn't read that second
read
one or anything. Like
all of
she's so there's a lot more stuff.
Yeah, because so when it first happened, they screenshotted all of her messages and they started a petition. Every single message she wrote, the full messages are in the petition. She even goes and starts ranting about how no one's upset that two like black people, and I don't remember the language if it was like thugs or like something. She said killed an officer up in Fargo, North Dakota, but nobody's upset and going off about that. What about the white officer that got killed up there and blah, blah, blah. And she went in a lot of details, and somebody even went even further, like to post a message on the school's page, I think, a follow-up message saying that they think it's awful that she got fired because she was speaking the truth and all the black kids underperform the white kids educationally and stuff. But that goes along to what we were talking about earlier today, is like the school systems, and that's the reason why. So if you're a community member and you know that you have minorities in your community and they're underperforming, why wouldn't you want them to have the same equal education and opportunities as your child, so your school and your community don't all fall down as a whole or look bad?
Absolutely.
But that's just the whole mindfulness. And then you got the whole issue about the rioting and the running wild and wanting to restore justice. I mean, I think a lot of people missed that whole thing because the rioting and the looting and stuff, it came along with what was going on. It's like you said, that pressure valve.
Right,
If
it's
you don't
exactly
have that
this.
pressure valve to relieve, people are frustrated. People are upset. Me personally, I went to some of the protests and stuff. I wasn't looting. I wasn't burning down anything. But who's to say that you wouldn't do that if you were in that situation, especially when you already
Absolutely.
feel with anger?
If you don't allow peaceful revolution, then you make violent revolution inevitable, and that's exactly it.
And the example that I've given a few people too is like, you can sit up there and say you wouldn't do it or it's not right. But, okay, if you're driving by in an armored truck, flips over and the bags of money flying around, everybody's grabbing money, you're not going to pull over and be tempted to grab some money too?
Right.
Or grab a bag of money? It's going to be very tempting.
reminds
You
me of
might
the
even
armored
do it.
truck.
That reminds me of that shit from Facebook. Like you pull up, your son's with you. Like your driver. The driver's dead. The back door's like wide open. What's the lesson that you teach your son? Lift with your legs.
No, yeah, I just think a lot of that stuff. It was just really crazy the way people were looking at everything that's even still now to this day what's going on, because to me this is a revolution. That's what's really going on. It's a revolution, a modern day revolution. Not back in the day you had other leaders, MLK and everybody else leading revolutions, but this revolution has been led by a lot of different people, people, period, not one specific leader. And most revolutions, you might have some casualties, some deaths and stuff.
Unfortunately, some of the leaders that are coming to the forefront. What's Sean King?
Sean King, yep.
I'm all in, but I think that guy might be an idiot.
Well, see,
Why do you say that?
the thing that I think that has been so positive about this particular revolution is that it hasn't had an MLK or a there hasn't been
Like a
leader.
face, a leader.
Right.
It's just been
And
everybody's the
the
people.
reason that that's good is because you can't assassinate everybody. So when MLK was in the 60s, that like he was the mark, and he didn't make it.
Same with Malcolm and
Same with Malcolm X and John F. Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy and all all the people that have worked to institute real institutional change have been fucking taken out. And I feel like this is a lot like the Arab Spring. I don't know if you know much about the Arab Spring, but it was that I don't know how many years ago that was now, but it was where it was a major uprising that really instituted some real change, and there was no leaders. It was people taking to the street and people, whatever.
And that's what it's going to take to
but
get
shit
the change.
don't change unless the voices become loud enough for the deaf to hear.
Let's see, my issue with Sean King, right?
Mm-hmm.
My issue with him, I was reading some of his tweets and stuff like that, and I'm like, man, you don't have to encourage people to fucking be breaking out the goddamn stained glass windows in churches and stuff like that. I know, in for me, it's just like a pump the brakes type thing. Slow down, dude. I think that's kind of ridiculous. Now, I get it. No fucking way was Jesus white. All right. Stuff like that. And I'm not, I'm not religious at all, so it's not about that either. I just think that, it might be too much. And I think that you're going to I think that it would really damage the movement if people started attacking statues of Jesus and stained glass windows with Jesus in them and stuff like that. That shit. I was just reading some of his tweets this morning, and I'm like, dude,
I don't know anything about it.
I don't either. I don't follow his tweets or anything. I've seen some of the stuff that we might see on bigger social media outlets and stuff, but I don't follow him to see his tweets and stuff to know exactly what that is. But as far as the buildings and stuff go, like I was saying, this is a revolution, and sometimes you'll have casualties and issues, but if the only casualties we're really having is buildings burning down and losing brick and mortar things, I'm okay with that if it creates the change that we need to come from it. Which, as
most
we
of that
see,
shit does not. A lot of that shit does not horrify me.
Yeah.
I'm just coming at with him. I'm thinking about the perspective as the people you're going to alienate, and people are going to be really conflicted, and I mean, and you don't want to turn like you're going to turn all the Christians against you. Like a lot of times, like this might be, you know.
I mean, there's some Christians against us already, though. You have a lot. How many
That's also
Christians,
true.
Catholics that you have that are white that still don't understand and agree with what's going on, but yet in the Bible it tells you all about loving thy neighbor and all, you know, being holy.
Well, sure. And I mean, let's face it. Like Christianity, like any major religion, has been used to oppress and enslave, you know, a lot. So I mean, they have some shit to answer for. But you know, like still in all, I don't think that their icons need to be, you know, that's. I think that's.
See, I didn't know
might be a
nothing
bit
about the
much.
churches, and I do know about like all the statues and stuff.
I don't give
I've
a
seen
shit
some
about
of
the
that,
statues.
but I didn't know
Christopher
anything
Columbus
about, like,
statue,
churches.
take it down. I don't give a fuck.
So I got into it a little bit with a buddy of mine, and I really like him, and I think he was just trying to be funny, but I got fucking less than happy about it. And he made some post about some guy in some business owner in Texas was pulled out of his business and killed by protesters. And why isn't that, you know, on the news? Why isn't that? Why aren't we talking about that? Some white dude. And I said, oh, was he pulled out of his business by the police officers that were put in a position of authority for him, and with the fucking you know, mandate to serve and protect, and then they pulled him out of his business and kneeled on his fucking neck in front of a bunch of people? Is that what happened? Because if it was, then it would probably be on the fucking news.
I think
But
with
it
that
did.
story wasn't he outside with a weapon or something?
Come to
trying
find out, it was all bullshit. But it doesn't even matter if it wasn't, right? Come to find out, the story was completely
You see a lot of that
false
shit.
anyway.
Okay.
And
But
people
even
posting
if it
every
wasn't-
fucking story that happened in the last 10 years. You're like, this is 3 years old, dude.
But even
Still
if it
though.
wasn't, even if protesters who were enraged over this inequity went into a store and pulled out a white guy and murdered him in the street, it's not the same thing.
No, it is not
because
the same
that's
thing.
individuals doing shitty stuff.
Those
And
are criminals?
Individuals do shitty
Yep.
stuff. But they are not the fucking people who we have put in power over us, who we've granted power to. It's a gift. We've gifted you the power. And now you're using that power to fucking oppress a portion of our population is unacceptable. It's just simply unacceptable.
You know, and I mean, police brutality, obviously, like, I mean, it doesn't, I would say it doesn't have a color, but definitely, you know, like, what is it? 1 in 1,000 black men
Oh yeah,
will be killed by law enforcement.
statistics.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so it's a much, you know, it's great.
And that goes along with all the statistics that people like to throw out about, oh, well, white men get killed by police more than black men. Well, if you really want to look at numbers, if you're that much of a math whiz, then
Right?
realize that there's more white men in
Yeah.
America than there is black men.
Exactly.
So, you know,
13% of the population is black?
yeah. So
Oh.
of course they're going to get killed killed more than black men. But I mean, when you look at black
the
men that are
rate.
being killed by officers, it's 3 times more than white
Yeah,
people.
I
as
have
far as
that
unarmed
shit
black
you
men,
wanted
at
me to
least.
pull up. Yeah, this was some of that.
Oh,
that
you know-
shit that you were.
And we're going to put this. It's from the Pew Foundation, and just some numbers. And we're gonna put it up. Actually, do you want to read a couple of those if you can find a couple that are?
Well, okay, so the majority of both black and white Americans say that black people are treated less fairly than whites in dealing with the police, and by the criminal justice system as a whole. There's a bunch of like stats on it, but I'll just do the highlights. Black adults are about 5 times as likely as whites to say that they have been unfairly stopped by police because of their race and ethnicity. By the way, Ace pulls up today, and my panhandlers are up front, and I was like,
Those tents are way
what
too
the
high.
fuck's up with the tint on the windows, Ace? This is not the time to be pushing your luck. He goes, what they gonna do? Pull me over? I was like, they're gonna kneel on your neck. That's what
No,
they're gonna do.
Yeah,
It ain't good.
it's so I actually just got him, like I told him, I just got him tinted like 2 weeks ago or so, and I'm just like, I've waited for over a year, And I think actually that should be part of the change. Maybe if they cut out some of those stupid probable cause things, and you'll stop making those gray areas where police can justify pulling someone over for basically nothing. Like, you're gonna pull me over for tinted windows because you're mad that you cannot see into my vehicle. If I'm not committing any criminal acts to give you any reason to pull me over in the first place, you don't need to see in my vehicle.
Right.
And if I am doing anything that you're meant to pull me over for, then I have to have my window down already before you come to the car and have my hands ready to make sure that I don't have a weapon, hopefully, so I don't get shot. So, I mean, I think they should cut out some of those probable cause issues to give that gray area to make police more of like the judge in certain situations and make it black and white.
Well, a lot of it's like a lot of people, an issue for a lot of people is like the militarization of the police force.
That's
that too.
what I would be calling for. Is not. I actually like some of the defunding of the police that has been talked about, but also like let's de-arm them. I mean, why are our police officers armed like fucking
ready for
like
war,
combat soldiers? It doesn't. And I see that there is a time and a place for that. Do I want the SWAT team going in with the fucking the gear and ready to rock and roll? Absolutely. But like
does it increase their safety though? I mean, does it
in
increase
certain situations?
I mean, in the SWAT team, sure, like
absolutely,
the SWAT get that. But what I want to know is like overall, like, does it increase a police officer's safety? To have the AR and all that stuff. Like, does it increase? Does it make them safer? I really want to know that.
I actually don't care. I care that it makes us safer.
Yeah.
I mean, their job, and we have said it over and over again, police have a very difficult job, and most police are very decent people, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is their job is to protect and serve. It's not, and so it doesn't matter if it makes them safer. It matters if it makes us safer. And we're giving them lethal power over us. And I don't think they need to have it. I don't think that they need to have it. Not on a... remember when we had that conversation with Sam Gibbons and I got pissed off at him and we were like arguing about... He was saying that he didn't think that... He thought that the bar for a police officer to use lethal force should be higher than the bar for an average citizen to use lethal force. And I thought he was fucking insane.
No.
But I thought about it.
I agree.
You do. So at first I was like, Sam, that is a ridiculous thing. Everybody has the right to protect themselves.
Because we have so many different guidelines as a citizen that we have to abide by. Like, you have to, here in Minnesota, you have to try to retreat, or it's not like a Florida stand your ground law where you have the right to be there just as bad as the criminal does.
Right.
So when you see officers shooting people in the back, why is that okay, and why is that not a charge for murder? Because this guy is no longer posing a threat to you. You have somebody in handcuffs that you're on his neck for what? The threat is neutralized. There's no reason to have him on the ground anymore. He should have been in the car a long time ago. He was in the car.
Yeah.
You snatched him out the
Cuff
car
him
just
and
to do
stuff him.
that.
Like, you don't
take him down.
Take him on and kill him.
Why aren't we teaching them more? Like, maybe part of their training should be more de-escalation tactics instead of instigating things more.
Without a doubt. But Sam's point was he thought that the bar for a police officer to use lethal force should be higher than for me to use lethal force.
I agree 100%.
Which I was like, that's fucking insane. And now but I've really processed that sense, and I want to have another conversation with him about it because I fucking think he might be right.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that police officers should have lethal. I think they should not be carrying guns on a routine basis. I think that's
tough because and I'm not for it. Like, I have officers in my family and stuff, so it's tough to say like they shouldn't have guns at all because there might be situations.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't have it at all.
Acts of violence happen randomly. You don't know. It's what it is, a random act of violence. You don't know when it's going to happen, but maybe they can have more things put in place for like those rubber bullets that they're shooting everybody with. Why can't they carry something around like that that can shoot rubber bullets instead of shooting real bullets at people to probably neutralize threats?
Like, I think that with the amount of advancement,
they can have a gun, a regular gun, maybe replace the taser with the rubber bullet gun, and
I don't necessarily like the rubber bullet gun, but maybe that's an option. But like, let's just put it this way. All right, we're in Star Trek land.
Okay.
So like, let's say, a cop, they have to have their phaser set on stun. That's the deal, right? Now, can they up their phaser to kill? Sure. But they have to go through the protocol to do that, right? So maybe it's just as simply as, they do have an AR-15 that's locked in their vehicle, and they have no lethal force on their person.
We might have to have another cop on.
Well, I don't think that they'll agree with us, but.
Well, I mean, that's all right.
But I also think they should.
You might get some.
But I also think cops should be paid as well as doctors. I think they should be making $150,000 a year. They should be highly educated, and they should, and we should have a lot less of them.
Much, they should be doing a lot more.
Absolutely,
and screened. I was thinking about the whole psychological screening thing the other day when I was watching. Did you guys ever see the video of the? There's an officer picked up by his body cam in a hotel hallway. And there was a couple. They were in town staying at this hotel. The guy was an exterminator, and he had like a pellet gun that he would use, in his work. But he had it up on like the balcony in their hotel or whatever, and he'd somebody saw him fucking around with it. I don't know if it was plinking cans or whatever, but apparently like it wasn't vandalizing or anything. But they saw him with this, a gun, the pellet, which turned out to be that pellet gun, and they called the cops. You guys haven't seen this video because it's the most. I think I sent it to you,
probably,
but you don't watch shit. Sorry, that was because I got him to watch Rudy and he fucking hated it. But
horrible.
So if you watch it, and maybe I'll put that. We got to put that up. We should read a couple more of those too. They're super interesting. But that and this video up on the Spitballing page, because the one thing that stands out now, there's this couple and they're like, and he has them like, they're on their knees in the hallway or whatever, like put your hands behind, all going through the whole deal. And this cop, you can tell that the things that he says are very well rehearsed, and not in like a professional way, like he's seen too many fucking movies and he's been waiting for this day his whole life way. The way he's yelling at this guy and scaring the shit out of him, like he gets the woman out of the hallway, like she complies, and the dude, he's getting, he's yelling instructions at him. Meanwhile, adding shit, like that he thinks sounds badass. And the guy is fucking terrified. He's begging, he's screaming, he's begging, he's crying and shit. Like he's fucking, like keeps trying to fucking like to comply and shit. Like, no, put your hands behind your back. No, crawl towards me. Like he's going through all this shit and he's fucking terrified. He's not doing a perfect job of it, but he's not doing a horrible job of it. And he's definitely complying. He's definitely fucking, he's definitely doing his best. But that guy fucking kills him. He shoots him in the fucking hallway, ends his life.
Oh, damn.
And
I haven't seen that one.
Then when the guy was acquitted and shit, he had some fucking like some shit carved into. Oh yeah, that's right. Carved like on the stock of his rifle, and it says, "What did it say?"
I didn't see the video.
Like, now you're fucked.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Crazy shit.
And it's like, is that the fucking mentality? Like, is that the guy that you want fucking you were like working that job?
Right.
No, because a lot of times those guys get weeded out before they can do any damage. Like guys like that want to be a cop all the time, and in a lot of places, like I know a lot of, like we both know, we all know a lot of cops.
Yeah.
And like in a lot of those shitheads, they get fucking weeded out, but sometimes they fucking don't.
Where was it, Maryland, where they fired the entire police force? I don't know if it was Maryland, but there was a city where they fired the entire police force and then restarted it, and everybody had to apply for their job back, and then they went and they screened them out, and like 20% of them.
There is a precedent for the whole defunding thing, and so far so good. Like it looks like it works.
But here's
you clean up, you strip shit down, you clean it up, and you fucking put it back in place, and it works better.
This is interesting though. We know that if you have access to a firearm, you are more likely to kill yourself. This is just a fact. Okay. I think that it is also true, if you have access to a firearm, you are more likely to kill somebody else. Now,
I don't know.
Well, it's harder to kill somebody without a firearm.
Well, I mean, as far as like firearms go, people, I think it's a statistic out there that actually speaks about people who have like their permits to carry legally are least likely to ever use their firearms in a like a death or something like that.
Yeah, right. It's very, very low.
Yep.
People who have their permit to carry, it's very low that they actually kill somebody. But the point is that if you're, more people are murdered with a firearm than they are with a lead pipe, right?
Yep.
So, like, it's access to a firearm that makes it's easy to fucking kill somebody with a gun. And it's weird because we're talking about this in the wake of George Floyd, who
was killed with a knee.
And like, I can't get it out of my fucking head. Like, it keeps coming back to this whole idea, like that, like it was the equivalent of holding his head underwater. I mean, you couldn't possibly not know what you were doing. It's impossible. Anyway, but I feel like if we were to unarm our police force, now they don't have instantaneous access to a firearm in order to get a fire. So, like, you pull somebody over, right? You don't have a firearm on you. You have non-lethal weapons, right? And I think we can do those. Like, whether it's a taser or a fucking some kind of like better way of non-lethal. And then when it escalates, if it escalates, that's when the lethal force comes in. So you have to go through a step. But instantaneously, officers are able to access lethal force. I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I'm not going to name him right now. He was a cop about this, but he was in a situation where he was responding to a burglary call, whatever, and he and several other officers were going up to this house, and the car that they suspected was in the driveway, and they all had their guns pulled, and they're out, and a dog comes out and goes after his partner, and he shoots the dog, and he got into a lot of shit for it, or got like a lot of fat, whatever, and everybody was like, why did you have to shoot that dog? Why didn't you tase the dog?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a logical question.
Yep.
And the answer to it is he couldn't. He couldn't because he had already drawn his weapon. So they are already at lethal force. You can't go backward and then forward. I mean, A, there isn't time, but B, like, that's not the protocol. The protocol is I'm at level lethal force. The next thing I do is lethal force. There isn't a, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Now, it ended up not being there was no bank robbery, whatever happened. But the thing is he ends up shooting this dog and gets a lot of shit for it. But it's like going backwards is what I'm saying is maybe they should have all been going up with tasers and tasers aren't probably the right answer, right? Because tasers are bulky, blocky, blah, blah, blah. But there's something has got to be better than than what we have right now. And I think that police officers are not paid enough, but they're also not educated enough, and they're certainly not screened enough,
Yeah,
I think they're paid better than the educators.
They are, which is sad too, man.
Because it starts with the educators. You have some people like this art teacher with that mindset, and there's kids in their class, and then they go be a cop. And you go with this whole, I was this little scrawny kid with no friends, or, cocky kid, whatever the case scenario is, and then you get even more power.
Yeah.
But yeah, that art teacher, so she retired, right? She resigned. So what's next? A career in politics for the Republican Party, or what's?
I think so.
I don't know. I'm really torn because
win the
I think
nomination.
can she get another job? And
I'm
I'm
sure.
not for like, let's ruin someone's life. But when you have that much hatred and stuff, you should not be able to work in education again. At least she should not be able to work in education in any field.
I think it would be pretty hard.
Does the Ku Klux Klan have any like schools where they have like art programs and stuff like that? I mean,
yeah, just throw it. Oh, look at that!
Almost made it.
Basketball. On my ass.
But that shit,
because
you're right though that like educators are not paid enough either. I mean, that's true. But I also
like we talked about earlier. I think people might have found that out.
I have a friend of mine, another person I'm not going to name, and her son went. Just got out. Like I said, hey, your kid's in town. Yeah, cool. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I just got done going through the going to be a cop program. And I was like, really? That seems so weird. That seems like a completely wrong fit for him. And she goes, yeah, we thought that too. And he said that that's probably what will make him a good cop, because he's not a like he's not he do- like he wants to help people, whatever.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, well, that's probably correct. That probably will make him a good cop. How is it going? She goes, he doesn't want to be a cop anymore. He like went through the program, and he said that it was there was such a mentality of like it was so gross that he was like, I just don't want I don't
I believe
have
it.
anything to do with that. I mean, one example she told me was that like right away they were at this big thing, and there's always and the instructor was like, like wanted a show of hands of how many in the crowd were Christian conservatives.
Oh, that's crazy.
And he was like, I think I probably shouldn't raise my hand because everybody else is. And that shouldn't be a question ever asked in a situation.
No.
Really.
Although like one of the best cops I know, one of the best people that I know, guy that used to bounce for me. Actually, like there's a couple of guys that are cops now that are wonderful. They're great dudes.
Yes.
And they're both conservative Christians. Not that makes a fucking difference. They could be goddamn,
Totally.
And
But you shouldn't. But having an instructor.
But
asking
having someone come right out like that should make, and no one, even if you're the most conservative, most Christian person in the fucking room, that should make you uncomfortable because of what you're fucking there for.
Yep.
Right.
And the setting of it.
It's just like going to a job
Nobody should be
interview and they
comfortable with
ask
that
you about
question.
your religion right away.
Yeah.
No, but I had a buddy that was a cop that actually told me that they are trained, and I don't know how true this is. Maybe it was just his place or whatever the case, but they're trained apparently to always assume that we're lying to them
Well,
when they pull us over.
yeah, my friend who I was
I
talking
am
about,
always lying to them. Pulling over.
he,
If I'm going the speed limit, that means I have drugs in the car.
he didn't say that they were trained to do that, but he said that everybody is lying to you. Like it's just like it sucks, but it
But they should
becomes
not think that way. That's probably why they have those situations where they can't go back to non-lethal.
right. He's not a cop anymore. Yeah, I mean, and part of it, and I actually
That
don't
just
know.
makes
I
me
don't
want to
know.
get pulled
What
over so I
happened?
can be like, looking good. You look great today. How you doing? You seem like a smart guy. Why don't you like?
I feel like, and I have many good friends that are cops, and I feel really bad for them. But I get really sick of the whole like, well, there's only a few bad apples out there, and it's like,
And then, yeah, it's frustrating. We talked about that several times. It's like when people say they don't like cops, it's not like, oh, I don't like all cops. It's just the ones that are the problem. But you feel attacked, and if you feel attacked, sometimes I feel like maybe you have a little guilty conscience yourself. Because
Right.
you wouldn't feel attacked if like if you tell me like, oh, I can't stand ignorant black people. I know I'm not an ignorant black person, so I wouldn't be offended. Now, if you said it and you meant like all ignorant black people, then it'd be a different story. But
Right.
some people just get in their feelings and they take it the wrong way. And same concept, like not all cops are bad. There's not all black people are bad either.
the difference
know?
is that cops are in a position of power.
Yeah, and
That's
they should
really-
have a higher standard. It's just like doctors and anybody else. They should be held to a high standard. They are, and basically, our lives are in their hands.
Our lives are in
at
their
every
hands.
single
and
stop.
And it's almost even different though in doctors, because we're their employers. We give them.
Yeah, we pay their
We
wages.
pay their
pretty much.
wages. We give them permission to police us.
Yeah.
And that is a different thing. I give my doctor permission to put his finger in my ass because I like it. But
Let's
But-
be real. You give a lot of people that permission.
I mean,
Probably why you and Brad got into it a lot.
he had small fingers. Yeah. I can't remember what I was watching about the bad apple thing, but it's like the whole saying is that, one bad apple spoils the bunch, that the rot spreads. And that's a true statement.
I
Like
definitely think
you have it doesn't matter if you have 30 officers on the force and one bad apple, the force is rotten. And the reason it's rotten is because you can't have a bad apple on the force without the rest of the force
Not knowing.
They know.
They know.
They have to
and
know.
some of them probably eventually become bad apples along with that one.
Because one bad apple
Yep.
spoils the bunch.
I agree.
Why do so many people have such a big fucking problem with? I mean, everybody always wants to point the finger at everyone else's community. You know, like, well, why doesn't the black community take care of its own goddamn problems and stuff? Why doesn't this community? Why don't But
Why don't police their own?
yes, goddammit. Why instead of like closing ranks, aren't you like angry about these shitheads making you look bad?
And some cops are, but I don't think enough speak up.
Well, that fucking one.
I mean, it must be hard to speak
I
up.
don't remember where it was.
Shit, can't be though.
Where it was, Texas or something, and the police chief went out with the protesters and took a knee.
Yeah.
And they're like 3/4 of the force are going to resign over it. You know, because
Bye.
he showed
But that
solidarity.
shows, but that
And I was like,
shows
integrity.
That shows their true mentality of
That-
those
I was
officers.
like-
Yeah, that
I
us
was like-
versus them shit.
I was
you know?
like, this is the solution.
yeah.
just every fucking chief of police needs to go out and take a knee with it, and then the ones that quit, well, they don't fucking get their jobs back. I don't
Because
know.
now you know you're quitting for a reason. You're quitting because you don't agree with everybody else should be treated equally. Because that's
Right.
all it was about. Just like Kaepernick taking a knee and everything else, it was all about equality. All that stuff. I think we talked about that last
We
podcast.
did, yeah,
too.
because that was really kind of hot right then.
It was just crazy because we're here a year later talking,
Yep, the same
rehashing the
shit.
same stuff.
But man, a
And
lot
that
has
shit's-
changed in that.
and he's
last
back
year.
in the news
because
again. Fucking
when
people are talking
you
about
told
that.
me that Minnesota was one of the racist places you've
That I've been
ever
to.
been,
Yep.
I was like, "What the fuck? That seems completely counterintuitive." And in the last year, I have really tried to keep my eyes open toward it. And I mean, it's not that I
But
never
it's
have seen
tough to
racism.
see that because you've never
It's
never
not
been
that
black.
tough to see.
You've never been black.
No, you're right.
You've
You're
never
right.
been
You're right.
black.
And we talked about that
Yep,
before. Like
yep.
I don't.
So you
I
won't
can't
see it
relate
to that
to
extent.
that thing.
Yeah.
However, you have to almost fucking be blind not to
to
see
see
it
it.
right now.
Yeah.
In the last year, I went from thinking maybe Ace just has a different experience than other, or what, maybe, to like being like, oh, we have the most racist fucking state in the nation. Our fucking our police officers kneel on people's fucking necks until they fucking die.
And I feel like you're about to say something because
He
you
says
have
that, he
been
goes like,
black one
"Man."
day with your ID. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like, well, I actually used
was
my
that.
black
I
friend's
was
ID
gonna,
once.
I was gonna
I
mention.
black.
No, no, but you people have been trying to adopt me for the last 20 years. I mean, it feels good, but
What
damn,
you
why
mean,
can't
you
I be
people?
like? That was supposed to sound like that. But no, I was going to mention now the whole concept of white privilege. People really like, and I was one of those people, and I've been meaning to like write something about this on Facebook or whatever the fuck, wherever I can reach people. When I first heard the term white privilege, I fucked it up myself. Like I didn't get it. Like I was like, I thought that meant that like someone was suggesting that I was born with a fucking silver spoon in my mouth or something like that. You know,
That's
like
what people take it
like
as,
I
huh?
lived this fucking privileged life, and I'm like, that's bullshit. That's not what it fucking means. Because I actually, and you know how I found out what it meant? I wanted to know, so I went and asked people. Remember my story? Our old friend, her and her like that, just this rainbow coalition of lesbians. They all they ganged up on me on fucking Facebook because they were talking about white privilege, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I get it. I'm like, I'm not
Right.
trying to start shit. Like but I want to know. I want to understand. I'm like, so what is like explain to me what white privilege is. The fact that you have to ask mama now, and they fucking went ape shit on me, and fucking like I said, I wouldn't piss on those bitches if they were on fire. They can go fuck themselves. Anyway,
Damn,
so
did they
after that bad
did they
experience,
go
I
at
went
you
to
that bad.
Oh, they went they're bad, real bad. But I kept at it, and then I fucking finally learned, it doesn't mean that you've had this charmed fucking life. It doesn't mean that you've had all these opportunities. It just means that you didn't have the color of your skin working against you in these situations and stuff. It's really simple.
Yeah.
And now that I understand what it is, and I want other people to understand what it is too, because like I said, I fucked it up at first too. They just don't get it. And now I see it so fucking clearly that I'm looking at people and they're fucking, and I'm like, if you're fucking mad, about Elmer Fudd's gun, or you're fucking mad about the lady on the syrup bottle, you're outraged by these things.
But you're not.
That's the fucking picture of white privilege.
Yeah, you're not mad about social injustices.
You're not mad about a guy dying in the fucking street with a knee on his goddamn
Yeah.
neck and shit like that. You're not worried about fucking like people like
But what about
one
the
out of
burning
3 black people being
buildings?
incarcerated.
What about the burning buildings,
Right?
Kyle?
That is the fucking picture of white privilege. That is
Yeah.
what white privilege is.
Yeah.
When you have the luxury of worrying so much about fucking Mrs. Butterworth or whatever the fuck.
It was Aunt Jemima.
Yeah, I actually know that.
Yeah.
I love Mrs. Butterworth. Anyway, so yeah, like when you have the luxury of bitching about that instead of actually being mad about fucking real shit, like people that look like you being killed for looking like you and things like that. Guess what? That's white privilege. You know, it doesn't mean that fucking everything was perfect or shit was handed to you. It just means that you don't have to worry about those things.
I think you realized that too. The last time we talked, it was. I could have sworn you brought up situations about you being the white guy that was always getting into more trouble than the black guys. But
yeah.
But when things went down, they would always go at the black guys.
Oh.
And that's part of the whole white privilege. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how trailer trashy you are or whatever you think in your mindset, that's how you feel. I was, white trailer trash, whatever. It's just because you look different. And it had several video clips out with all these protests going on. I seen one where it was a white girl and black girl sitting with each other. They must have been friends, peacefully protesting, sitting down. And the cops come, grab the black one, and drag her back and try to put her in cuffs. The white friend sitting up there yelling, like, why is she being arrested? Why is she being arrested? And then they push the white one away. And they keep pushing her away. She keeps coming back, and they push her away to get away from them. But they're putting the black girl in cuffs, and it's like, that's the perfect visual of what white privilege is.
And people think
they're both
that,
doing the same thing, but because of the color of her skin, it was easier for them to just grab her for no reason. And they were sitting down on the ground, just calmly, peacefully protesting. There was nothing going on besides that.
you got to have one white guy in the crew because every once in a while, somebody's got to talk to the cops.
No, somebody's got to tell a
shit.
story. Somebody's got to live to tell a story. That's all it comes down to.
Wow.
Shit like that, and like that old Chappelle thing that we talked about that time. Fucking who's the sketchiest guy in this bunch? You never know what that white guy's done to get those brothers respect.
Yeah.
Shit like.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's fucking ridiculous. And I've seen it. I lived it. And people think that like we're making this shit up. People think that race isn't a fucking big deal. It's only a big deal because you keep making it a big deal. No, that's not how it fucking works. How many events, like, and how much shit from like people's everyday lives for that matter do you have to string together for you to believe that racism is a real thing? And and I don't think people really understand what racism is because like we talked about last time. Oh, I can't be racist. I've got a black friend,
Yeah.
or I've got a black coworker, or like I've got a black person in my
Actually,
family
just
and
got
shit.
into it
Like-
with one of my really close buddies. We played baseball in college and stuff together. And he's a white guy. But we've been cool for years. And when all this stuff happened, he was one of those people that were more concerned about burning buildings and stuff. And I'm like, same thing I told you. I was like, you know what? If all we're losing are brick and mortar buildings to create the change that we need, I was like, I'm fine with that. I wouldn't be down there burning and doing that stuff. I was like, I'd be protesting though. I was like, but I'm okay with it. Something needs to happen. You can say people, oh, why can't you peaceful protest? People have protested peacefully for years.
Yes.
Kaepernick taking a knee was a peaceful protest. You've had several other little signs of peaceful protest of like the I Can't Breathe before that when the last time it happened. Everybody wearing hoodies when Trayvon Martin was killed. There's been peaceful protests for years. At some point, if you don't have that pressure release valve from that pressure cooker, it's gonna spew over. You cannot get mad now at a building, so things that should have changed for years.
And this shit that we've been ignoring for so long, that is like that part of everyday life, and people just fucking bury their head in the fucking sand and they ignore it. So I watched 13th on Netflix.
13.
But the 13th Amendment, it's named after
Oh, I
the
seen 13
13th
Reasons
Amendment.
Why, but I didn't see that.
Man.
I didn't get a chance to watch it.
So
but I
I'm
heard
trying
it.
to get everybody to watch 13th because it talks about mass incarceration. It talks about like what happened like after slavery and stuff like that, and fucking it talks about like slave labor. It talks about goddamn, like all it talks about like these like the prison complex, you know, how big money, like the big money in prisons and stuff.
It is. They're a business.
And like, you know, and I was just reading an article the other day, and I remembered, and I'd forgotten about this, but I think it was from like 2000. It was from like 2011, I think. But it was a judge that had gotten busted for selling black youths to prisons.
Oh, yeah.
Private prisons. You know, they like he was getting kickbacks.
Well, we have a ton, like all our
You know?
prisons. It's a money
Yeah,
system. All the prisons
the
are-
prison industrial
yeah.
complex. I mean,
crazy.
we have a higher number of incarcerated citizens than our
Anybody
country
in the
than
world.
anybody else in the world. I mean,
Land of the free.
number one.
Yep.
So one of the fun stats I always throw out too, working in the schools and stuff, is actually so prisons, they look at the third grade truancy rate to determine how many more prisons, private prisons or whatever the case it is they do, that they need to invest in, because it is statistics facts on truancy rate from the third grade that says how many kids are more likely to be arrested, and it goes all the way up.
And
Because it's like
the sad part is that they use that metric because it works.
and it's crazy. So if a lot of parents really knew that, like your kid not going to school at third grade, you know, missing a lot of school and they become truant, you think it's fine, but then they don't realize that there is statistics, there is research done that says that your kid, if they're truant, they're looking already at like how many prison beds they need to make.
And
That makes me feel vindicated for all the times I've like looked at somebody like and like judged somebody's parenting and be like, that fucking kid's gonna be in prison. Like, fuck.
and the thing is
yeah.
that like
They're running around Walmart when school's in session and the kids
it's not
should
just
be-
a statistic because that it is, but I mean, the prison industrial complex is throwing real money behind it, so
Yeah.
it's a fucking real thing, obviously. But I mean, it's just like any system; it's going to grow to its capacity. So, like, the more prisons they make, the more prisoners they need. You know, but that's, god damn it, that's going down a whole nother. I mean, Jesus, getting into how to fix that is.
Yeah, and that's why you got aggressive
fucking-
policing. That's why I say you
But-
got to start taking away those probable cause and those gray area like things. Because, I mean, what technically in Minnesota can't you have like a certain amount of weed when it's only a ticket?
I don't know.
A certain amount of marijuana. I think it's like a little. I don't know. I'm sure somebody will tell you about it later. But I thought it was like a little bit under an ounce or something. It's only a ticket or citation or something like that. But
I mean, god damn it!
you probably got people getting arrested all the time for
We
stuff
need
like
to get
that.
that just done. We just need to fucking.
Yes.
We need to just legalize marijuana. The only people, I mean, we've talked about this a million times, but the only people that it actually hurts are drug dealers and like the fucking cartel. Like actually legalizing weed.
I don't know if we need to stop at marijuana.
No, but we definitely need
know, like,
to.
we need to-
No, we're not
definitely need
legalizing
to-
coke, Kyle. I don't know what
We definitely.
Well,
he
that
was
would-
going for it. He was-
That would take all the fun out of it anyway.
I mean, and maybe hookers. I mean, coke and hookers. That we can get those.
But they're legal. in
Victimless
some
crimes.
places.
Victimless crimes.
Well, in Vegas,
Well, that's where weed started.
weed started in Vegas.
Well, isn't that where they first legalized it? It wasn't in.
Oh, I don't know. I think
was it
California.
Colorado? California?
it's
Which one?
California.
Oh.
But
Well,
whatever.
maybe they'll
Actually,
expand
that's
hookers.
That's a huge problem anyway. Like,
Again, I don't even smoke weed. I'm a grown up. I do coke.
I think that it would be a big. I mean, we don't even how much of the entire policing problem is that just like fucking trying to like catch people with a little bit of weed. It seems like such a fucking weird, bizarre deal.
And I've
It is.
talked
It's
to a
so
lot of
sad.
cops that really feel
It
like they
is.
have better shit to do than fucking like.
They
Fuck
say
half
that.
the
They
people
say
for
that.
fucking-
But if you've been
I know,
ever
but I
pulled
feel
over,
like it's, well, and
they're always looking for it.
but because you're black.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But that's
they,
the thing
They say
is-
we have better stuff to do, but if they pull you over, they don't have nothing really to do but whatever they're trying to find on you in that moment.
On you
Yep.
in that moment.
Well, on me,
and that
yeah.
again is
See, that's
that
that
right
white
there is
privilege.
white
You don't-
privilege.
you don't have to worry about it.
It's serious.
Yeah.
Like again, as I said last time, I can't relate, and I feel it kind of hurts my heart that I can't empathize with that feeling because fuck, I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. I don't really. I mean, like it would be kind of in an interesting, experiment. You know, if you had a magic wand and you could just like dub the black for the week, month, day, whatever.
That sounds like a movie that has already been made a couple of
Probably.
times.
But like how like So if I had to spend, July uh, I still wouldn't be spending July
Soul Man was
as
the
a
name of the movie.
Oh yeah.
as a black man, because I don't have the rest of it.
Yeah.
But just simply changing the color of my skin for a month and letting me feel how I am treated by other people, I think would be incredibly eye opening.
I think
Actually-
being black for a month would would negate my life insurance policy or something. They'd be like, "Fuck you."
Higher risk.
No,
You-
no, no,
you
no,
pay
no,
a higher
yeah.
premium. Your credit score would drop a little bit more. You got to start building that from the bottom. No business
Either
loan.
that or they'd be like, "It's no problem. By the way, we love Boys to Men."
Wanye. No, I actually had an issue at Fleet Farm the other day. I was talking to a guy that so I had a part-time gig back in Foot Locker back in the day, and I hired this high school kid, really great athlete, and he plays basketball, white kid. I ran into him at Fleet Farm 3 days ago, and he's got tattoos now and everything, and he's a basketball player still, and he said he's getting ready to go off to another school because he's finishing out a 2-year. But we're sitting out there talking, and we're just talking about everything going on. And he was like, yeah, the college in town is racist, too. He was like, man, did you know, like, 2 years ago, they were trying to put a Blue Lives Matter flag up in the whole college and stuff like that? And I'm like, oh, no, I didn't know that. And then this older white guy didn't even hear the conversation, but just happens to walk by, looks at us, and scoffs at us. And then the white guy I'm with just looks this old guy up and down, and he's just like, I was like, yeah, I need to go. I'm going to go run in the store and get my stuff and go home. I was like, it's so irritating.
What is Blue Lives Matter?
You don't see where, actually, I actually saw a lot of stuff on this because this guy, a lot of people on social media are putting a lot of stuff out there and being more aware of everything that's going on. And they were talking about the American flag, and they were saying like when Kaepernick kneed for the American flag, that was disrespectful because you're disrespecting the flag and blah, blah, blah. But they said that actually that is covered in the First Amendment rights of freedom of speech to be able to knee for the flag, but it's actually it actually is more illegal to alter the flag. So when women are out there wearing their American flag bikinis, that's actually more illegal than a person kneeing.
Yeah.
And then so the Blue Lives Matter is when they
American
the
flag
police do the
Speedo and shit
American
like
flag and they put the blue line through it. It's a black version of the American flag, and they put a blue line through it, and it's for like police.
Yeah.
It's when they were saying
I
Black
get it.
Lives Matter, and they were like,
Blue
Blue
lives.
Lives Matter.
I couldn't make the connection to blue.
Yeah.
I was like, which race are we talking about?
Smurf.
Smurfs. Yeah.
I didn't go with Smurfs, but I should have. So I just couldn't quite put it together. I get it. Yes, that's fucked up. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so tough when you get into that topic, just because it's like there's some things, like you said, you don't know how it feels, and then the fact that you don't even want to know how it feels. Like you said, I don't even want to experience it.
I mean,
that
probably
speaks
don't.
volumes, because you know that there's a problem, and you don't ever want to experience the problems that a lot of people are going through.
I mean,
and more people need to feel that way.
I feel bad that I don't know. Like, I want. Heck, it's tough, man. Because there's a part of me that really does want to know.
The closest
that
thing
I feel ashamed of my ignorance, and that bugs me. I don't want to be ignorant of it.
But as long as you're open-minded and you take the opportunity to educate yourself, like even earlier with the guy you said that police officers should have a stricter guidelines to actually use deadly force, recognizing that, even then, you're opening your mind to certain things and recognizing when you do wrong. So,
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you're trying.
If I'm anything,
you're trying to
If
understand.
I'm anything, I'm really good at being wrong. But I do often run into this wall, and I think no, that is the most fucked up thing I've ever heard. And then I process it, and I think about it, and I look at it, and I do eventually. I don't even know that I necessarily agree with that opinion, but I see it now, and I see it much more clearly than I used to. But I know. But it does kind of. But I don't know. I might take the magic wand experiment if we could.
There's no possible way. And then the way that, with Kyle's attitude and how he is with things, if he was black and actually got pulled over every single day, or not even every single day, but just always harassed or always looked at or always have to feel on edge, I can see him going off. Like when you see those videos of people and they're like, oh, well, maybe if they complied a little bit better. It's kind of frustrating when you're
Well,
always
right?
profiled. So,
so the
you
thing is-
probably get
Right,
shot.
you shouldn't
get
have
shot.
to every
You-
fucking.
we talked about
just
this last
bite
time.
your
I
lip
think it's
and-
an important point was that you were talking about how like there's, and I don't want to I don't want to ruin how you said it because what you said it was really good, but maybe you can remember. We were talking about how like there's a difference between being black and being black. You know,
Yeah.
like you were talking about.
Yeah.
You know, you came from Miami and you have like.
Because it's not always just being black is not just the color of your skin always. Because you have some people. To me, at least, when I said that, it was like did you grow up as a black man that grew up in the hood and you didn't have a lot of stuff for you, opportunities? You had issues of being profiled,
Right.
stuff like that. Or did you grow up as a black man? I have a couple athletes on my team right now. They're young black men. They're adopted by white families. These families are doing great. So they don't really understand. And I actually had to have a talk I was talking to one of the parents on Tuesday when we had our practice because the kid talks back a lot. And I try to talk to all the young kids about not doing that because I'm like, you don't understand that, he's a black kid. You're adopted by a white family. You stay in a white neighborhood. So you don't really understand
Right.
yet, but you can't be just going off talking back and thinking that people owe you stuff and you're entitled all the time because it's going to come back on you at some point where, you get pulled over by the police and you're talking back and questioning them the way you are. You might not have a good outcome. It's not going to be a great situation for you.
Right.
And it's tough to even have those talks with youth. But I've had I've had to have that talk with my daughter. I've had to have that talk with her brother, just about the color of their skin. Maybe not being invited to a birthday party because I don't know. I don't know what the situation was. One of your close friends didn't invite you to a party. I don't know. I can assume why. Maybe somebody in that family is not too thrilled about the situation.
So
or something
one of
like
our
that.
good friends, Clinton.
Oh, I know of him.
Yeah, you know Clinton.
I've seen him around.
Yeah, and I was talking to him a little bit about like this whole thing, and not necessarily specifically about the George Floyd thing because I talked to him a little bit before that, but we were just talking about how like he had a much different experience growing up.
Yeah, growing up in Brainerd as opposed to.
I actually met his
Kinda
dad.
knew everybody.
His
Oh,
dad.
no shit.
Yeah,
So
Clinton.
Yeah, because me working in the school system, we do this restorative practices, which is in the prison system. I think they do it as a restorative justice. But his dad is he was a convict or whatever. He was in prison and he's made right with his mistakes and stuff. And now he's done a lot with the restorative justice and he's moving forward and still trying to keep up with that. So I met him at like a conference and training and stuff like that.
Yeah,
sitting
super
in one of
interesting
those.
guy. I
And
know
his
him too.
dad's, and I know that's so like talking to his dad because his dad asked me and he was like, "Oh, you might know my son," and I was like, "Oh, I've heard of him. I've seen him around. We don't really know each other like that." But just his dad.
We're not in the
story
black club
is-
together.
His dad's different. His dad, Clinton didn't have the same life as even his dad did.
No, not even close.
Nope.
No, and I knew Clinton too, like back in the day. But anyway, it's just really interesting to contrast those two things because, like, yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to have a conversation about the differences.
It is. Well, I mean,
But
it
that
is.
said, it's still.
He's been.
I still can't relate to him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You
Like
can't.
I can't even put myself in his very comfortable loafers.
Yeah.
Motherfucker
'Cause
makes
he
a lot of
always
money.
wears
Oh, motherfucker
loafers and
makes a lot.
stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, I
he
don't
does
know.
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he could buy and sell me, and I still don't understand what it feels like to be like,
Sad part is that still doesn't make him any difference. He get profiled and pulled over the same way.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how much money he
Exactly.
makes.
Yeah, and it's not like he's
Exactly.
never.
They don't know that.
Man,
Because he used to live down in Nashville and shit like that. Like he's lived, he's lived around other black.
I was
people and
watching the
stuff.
show a while ago. I cannot remember what the hell it's called. It really wasn't that great, but I liked the main actor in it. Whose name I can't remember either. But very successful black man who was running this big advertising agency or whatever. And one day he's out jogging in his neighborhood, and I mean he's like loaded, and and he's got headphones in, and he's jogging in his neighborhood, in a really nice neighborhood, and the cops are trying to like
Stop him.
stop him,
And he
but
can't
he's got
hear
his
them.
headphones
Yep.
on, and he ends up getting the shit beat out of him and arrested and everything like that, and he's fucking livid, but he's like, I can't fucking believe this is happening to me, I mean, he's a millionaire and everything, and it's like
because he's never had those certain experiences.
Everybody
knew it when
he was cushioned.
So like with Clinton, he has that circle where he hangs out in like Nisswa area or something like that with
Yeah.
a lot of people.
Like, he's got a big circle of like really tight knit friends and shit, guys that he went to high school with and stuff like that,
and other guys that probably have money, doing good, or family has money. They stay out in like there's not that many black people in this area, but there's definitely not many in Nisswa, that area.
No.
So everybody probably knows him. He's been around them all. So then you come, to where a cop doesn't know you and they're not familiar with. It doesn't matter how much money you make or who you know or how.
And
big
when they
your circle
pull you
is.
over in that nice car, the question is not like,
Yeah.
do you know
Where'd
why I
get
pulled
that
you over?
from?
They say, whose car is this?
Speaking of joggers, like all three of those guys wound up getting charged.
Yep.
The Ahmaud Arbery murder.
Lost.
The one in Georgia.
I'm such a head in the sand guy. I can only handle it.
We talked about it on the show. The guy running down the street.
Well, they showed videos later on that he was inside of an abandoned house. It was a house being renovated.
Yeah.
This
or
was
something.
before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The guy
I thought
that
you were
like
talking
just
about
wandered into a
They-
construction
they
site, like looked around
convicted-
and left.
They convicted the 3 men involved with that one.
Okay,
So,
it's kind of vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they convict him? Oh, I think they're just like formally charged now.
Oh, was it?
oh,
Okay.
yeah,
I thought they actually. Okay.
But in this climate, they goddamn better convict.
I mean, but that one was just blatant. Like, come on. I mean, all of them. When you have situations, that's why I say it should be a higher standard for the police. I agree 100% before they can use deadly force. But they also should be taking more. Like they should be held accountable for officers. So that one, they weren't officers. I guess one of them was like
One of them was like
officer
used
or
to be a
something.
cop or whatever. Yeah,
And
but it was just
even
dudes.
then it was shady because they showed his whole background, which I was happy about because usually with all the black men that get killed, it's like we're gonna pull up his whole background and show that he got arrested for selling weed at one point in time, or
one of
here's
the
a picture
things-
of him smoking a blunt
we
on
had
his page.
that we had that conversation though before, like, and but I think it's super valid. Like, it doesn't matter what George Floyd did. It doesn't matter at all. Like, he could have just gotten done doing a mass murder,
Right.
but at the time, he wasn't putting anyone in danger. He was secured. He was handcuffed. He was on the ground. What happened before has nothing to do with it.
I wish we had more time because I'd like to get into that that stand your ground shit.
Oh, in Florida,
Trayvon, that Trayvon Martin. What was the name? What was the guy's name?
George Zimmerman.
George Zimmerman.
Yeah,
so they
we
talk
roll
about
up
that.
on
You
the
guys,
kid
you
and-
guys need to see 13th on fucking Netflix.
Well, I'll watch it, but
And
God
that-
damn it,
that
I
shit,
am
like-
emotionally fragile.
Well, it'll fuck you up too.
I can't.
Right about now, I have
But-
been like that's why I stay home a lot. I go to work and that's about it. But I just can't deal with I've seen a lot of the stuff that's been going on or stuff that's happened in the past. But now I'm just to the point where it's like I shouldn't have to be comfortable with people making ignorant comments and doing stupid things.
No, you shouldn't.
So I was like, I can't deal with it. Like right now, at the moment of what our whole nation is going through and seeing it all the time, constantly, it's just like I'm even more and more frustrated, and I'm like I'm on edge. I was like, I'm gonna fuck around and slap the shit out of somebody. I was like, it ain't gonna be no more laughing it off. So
Right.
I was like, I just stay away and do my job.
And
You
then
want to go out and slap shit out of people?
Nah, I don't try to.
No, but let's do it, and then Kyle can talk to the cops for us.
It sounds great, but then I'm gonna be the one that it doesn't matter. I'm gonna be the one that has to deal with.
So
all that.
I know we're running
even
out
if
of
I
time.
was even if I was the one slapping the shit out of
They
people,
probably
he
come
would
in and
have
tackle me,
he'd have a
yeah.
better chance of getting shot or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
No. See?
So I wanted to play this really short little clip. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I've watched this thing so many fucking times, and it really hit me hard. And it's at the end of the police episode on Last Week Tonight, but it's not him. I'll just play it for you.
So when they say, why do you burn down the community? Why do you burn down your own neighborhood? It's not ours. We don't own anything. We don't own anything. Trevor Noah said it so beautifully last night. There's a social contract that we all have, that if you steal or if I steal, then the person who is the authority comes in and they fix the situation. But the person who fixes the situation is killing us. So the social contract is broken. And if the social contract is broken, why the fuck do I give a shit about burning the fucking Football Hall of Fame, about burning a fucking Target? You broke the contract when you killed us in the streets and didn't give a fuck. You broke the contract when for 400 years we played your game and built your wealth. You broke the contract when we built our wealth again on our own, by our bootstraps in Tulsa, and you dropped bombs on us. When we built it in Rosewood,
never hear about that.
and you came in and you slaughtered us. You broke the contract, so fuck your Target. Fuck your Hall of Fame. As far as I'm concerned, they could burn this bitch to the ground. And it still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.
Yep, I agree with that one 100%.
That's our show.
And that's just the reality of it. But a lot of people don't want to look at those situations. They pick and choose which situations they compare what we're going through right now and how things are. You're not going to look at the history. It's always to get over it. It happened years ago. I have friends that June 19th has been all over the news lately and stuff, and it's like, this has always been a thing. It's always been a holiday. It's not like it just popped up. I had a white friend that was like, I didn't even know it was real until, and she's married to a black man. She's like, I didn't even know it was a real holiday until I looked at my calendar, and it was on my calendar. I was like, it's always been on your calendar. It's always been a holiday. I was like, and honestly, I think personally that we all should celebrate the 4th of July on June 19th, because that's technically when everybody was free. That's when all of us were finally independent. Not just when a paper was signed to say we were kind of independent. So it's like celebrating being released from probation when you get out of prison. You still on parole.
Right.
Celebrate when you're done. That's when we all should be celebrating.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah.
I like I said, I've watched that fucking thing so many times. I usually watch John Oliver, and that thing has hit me so goddamn hard. And then I kept watching it, but I just love when she says, like, you are so lucky that what black people want is
equality,
justice or equality,
not revenge.
and not revenge.
Well, see, and I think that I saw a sign the other day that I was like, because every once in a while I'll see a sign, that a protester's holding or whatever, and I'll be like, man, fuck you, And the only one that I've seen lately that I didn't like, it was something about the guy saying, what was it, blah blah blah. Someone has to pay for your ancestors' fucking like evil deeds or whatever, and I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, because I'm not paying. I'm not paying for any. Like, I'm not. Like, I want equality. I want social justice. I want all of these things, but I don't want to and I'm okay with bearing a certain amount of responsibility, for the deeds of my ancestors. But like when it comes down to it, I am not that person, So
And your fucking ancestors were Vikings, so those bitches were
well,
mean.
that's true.
But I
It's not
think
like any.
that's-
It's
so
not
what-
like any of my fucking
what
family
you're
was here
doing-
then, and they were sold slayer or like fucking. old
What you're
slaves.
doing is what a lot of people do in society too, where they look at something and they take it a way it's not really meant. Because even if, let's say, we do have equality, so they make everything equal across the board, they change a lot of laws and have other reforms in place, and we're given the same opportunities for home loans, business loans, as white Americans and stuff.
The thing is that
You're still paying for it. You don't realize that, but you're still paying for it. They're not literally saying like you got to give us reparations or something. So I
Well,
think
some
sometimes you
people
look
are.
at that. Some people will, but like there's always a few people that are missing the point even within the cause, or some people that don't fully
And
understand.
see, that's what I'm
the
talking
thing
about. It's like
is-
the reparations thing and stuff like that. That I'm not. I don't.
I think
I don't
I-
buy.
somebody threw out a good
right
idea.
now,
I
all
think they
people
should
are
stop.
asking for is to stop being killed.
Yeah, that's
by
it.
our police. That's all that they're asking for. That is not a fucking hard ask. Like,
so
this is,
so basically,
the
your
part that I'm down
ancestors
with,
have killed a lot of killed a lot of black people over the time from different forms and reasons and ways. So somebody has to pay for that. So we need justice on some end of it, not physical payments. And somebody threw out the idea of like, black people shouldn't have to pay taxes for
Ever.
for a couple of years, or it's like 400 years or something.
no, it seems logical.
I like that idea.
Fuck
I
yeah.
don't see if you can afford to give the whole nation $1,200, and then you're talking about giving up another very
Yeah.
generous one.
a really
Why
not
can't
a
you just
bad
take away
idea.
taxes for people, or even go to the extent of like, where was your lineage, or who you related to, or something like that.
Right.
But I mean, it's going to be so hard because none of us really have our, we can't track that because like my last name was given to me by my father because I'm a junior, but his last name was given to him by his father, but then where did they come from when
Right.
they were if they were slaves? Was your last name, did you come over here with your last name from somewhere else, or was that last name given to you by a slave owner or something like that?
But I think the point, like you're talking about, like equality in home loans and in business and all of those things, and I'm like I'm on board all the way across. But the thing that like I think is so like important to remember is what these protests are about is just the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Just the please
Human
stop.
rights.
Just
Civil
please,
rights.
Just
Simple
please stop
human rights.
killing people. Please, police officers, just stop killing black people for being black. That's all we're asking.
Yep.
That's our. I mean, that's not all we're asking, but that's the minimum ask right now. It's not a fucking high bar.
Maybe, and when we get done with, at
Well,
some
let's
point,
start
we
there.
just need to stop
gotta start
killing.
somewhere, yeah.
We need to stop killing each other. Period.
Sure, but let's just for right now. Let's just have it be
Yes,
police officers. Please stop killing black.
that's our focus because it's so
Please
goddamn.
stop killing black people for
out of
being
whack.
black because it's out of whack. And if that, then maybe next time we can work towards some other. It seems like it's like, does that even have to be a fucking ask? But it really does.
And it's sad that you don't have enough people that agree and see it.
And
And people
It's like
argue.
that's-
People
we-
argue it in the
just-
dumbest
how,
ways.
how
too,
could
you know, I
like
see that
what
shit on
is,
social
what
media,
could
and
be
I'm like,
an argument for that? You know, like, but it's just ridiculous.
Who was it? The Daily Show. They did those sketches where they were asking like a bunch of 45 supporters and stuff about different, what was it? Like just asking them different questions about the nation and where we are. Do you see some of those dumb responses that people gave?
Man, they're so
Like
painful
one dude,
to watch.
I was just watching it the other day again. It was yesterday. One dude was like blaming Obama for 9/11. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like if he's never in the office. If he was in the office, then that wouldn't have happened. Instead of out on his golf trips and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, he wasn't even in office in 9/11. So how do you blame a guy that had nothing to do with
Well,
it?
see, the
Oh,
thing
God.
is, you could tell that guy, but it wouldn't.
And then
make
it was
a
a
fucking bit of
then it was a
difference,
white
you know,
lady
like,
that
he's-
used the logic about equality or something like that, and so then the guy reversed it on her role, and she was like, "No, because it's like Obama's birth certificate."
think we
Do you
watched the
believe-"
same one.
Yeah, he was like, "Do
Yeah.
you believe his birth certificate or whatever should suffice for saying that he's a citizen?" No, it comes from his mom, and his mom's not honest.
Yeah, not
Or
credible.
No, she's not credible. Why? And why is she not credible? Oh, because she has reason to lie. So, do you believe Trump's a citizen? Yeah, because he's been here all his life. Well, how do you know that? From his parents. But
Yeah.
We watched the same
Yeah, his
one.
parents
That
aren't
fucking-
credible either. Then she was like, well, how do you figure that? He's like, well, I'm just using your logic on you.
Well, you can't be doing that.
Yeah, you can't do that.
You can't be doing
no.
that.
But I
No,
think we
it's
just
fucked
gotta
up.
I think a lot of people just have to stop looking at certain things and actually look into depth of what it's really being asked and what is being really said. Part of the restorative practice stuff, they have like these 7 assumptions, and I was just in a conference the other day, which was really dope because it was really, really into everything. And part of it was like every person's true self is like good, wise, and something. And it was one of the assumptions, and they asked us to like go through it and say what was the one that we really connected to and the one that we really didn't agree with. And I was the whole time I'm like, I'm the last one in line. We had to go around the circle. Everybody was going. It was a virtual thing, and so I was waiting, and I was like, okay, everybody's giving answers. Everybody's getting answers, and now I keep rethinking that question and rethinking because at first I'm like, okay, that's the one I struggle with because I don't think everyone is really good because there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of dumb people and stuff. But one guy got really upset about the protesters and all the looting and all this other stuff. And that's what made me think about it because that was his down point because people aren't good because all that stuff's going on. And when I thought about it and related it to them, I'm like, just because people are looting and rioting, that does not mean that their true inner selves are not good people. They're, because I thought about if I was down
almost
there doing
think of it as the opposite. Like I kind of feel like a piece of shit because I haven't been protesting, looting, or rioting.
Yeah.
Like, how am I too much of a pussy to put my money where my mouth is? Like, I believe this stuff in my heart of hearts, but I'm fucking don't I actually go and do anything about it? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to send $5 to my black friend. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. That's like a thing that's happening, though, I guess. Like, people are... No, seriously, I just listened to this fucking great...
I need to send out a message to all of my friends.
Yeah, like, I just...
Please send me $5, everyone.
I seriously...
Can I just give you a
start
20 right
reparations
now?
now.
And you can be like, okay, Kyle's good on the reparations, y'all.
I'll take it. I'm going to
So
go
there's
get
like...
gas and
that's a
head
serious
down the
thing.
sink.
Like, it was on this podcast I listened to, Reply All, but apparently that's been a thing. Like, like people
Just
will just
randomly
get
send it.
from somebody
I've
they
never heard
know,
of that one, yeah.
and it'll be just like, it's a small donation, like, a small amount of money, like 10, 15, $20 or whatever. They'll be like, what's this for? It's just because for just you be
it's for my
you,
white
you
guilt.
be you.
Facebook.
It's a
for my
fucking
white
You can
guilt
probably
payment.
make 6 figures if you know
So
enough people.
this comedian,
Right?
this black comedian, did this years ago. She put out a fucking like an infomercial on YouTube saying like, I'll forgive your white guilt if you just send me money and da 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 da. And it's fucking hilarious. And then she stopped doing it because she's like, it's just too much. There's just too much white guilt.
She's
So-
getting too much money. That's not a bad thing.
I think she did. Okay. Awesome. I know we got to wrap up. I definitely would love to have you come back on. And maybe this time not as the Ask a Black Man. We have a lot of shit to talk about, but I know this
But
is
there's-
something
yeah,
that
there's just a
this
lot
is the
going on,
this is the
too,
fucking
though.
elephant in the
Yeah.
room right now,
Yeah.
and I felt like we haven't been addressing it because we're pussies and didn't want to. Well, or maybe I don't know. I didn't want to talk about it without having.
Like I said, there's enough people speaking for black people,
Right.
That like hey, at least we can fucking like filter it through through one of our black friends.
Yeah, but I just don't want to. I don't want it to be like I'm the voice of every black person either,
Right.
though,
No,
because I have
sure.
my own opinions and the way logics of how I think about things too. So you might bring somebody else on, or like
That's the
Clinton,
plan.
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
not really.
Has
he
a different
probably
experience.
has a different lifestyle and experience. He might not have the same stories as
Yeah.
me. So
Well, believe me, we asked like all the black people we knew before we got back to you.
You're the
so-
only one. You as well. I just want last question. How's the whole branding clothing line been going?
self-doubt.
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt. I was ready to rock, had all the money, and then I started self-doubting myself, and then I just took a back seat to it.
I was just thinking this
So-
is like the perfect time to
Yeah,
launch.
because a lot of people are. It is kind of because a lot of people are supporting black people, and black dollars are trying to stay within the communities and build each other up, which I think is a great thing and should always have been happening. It shouldn't have took all of this to finally do it. Because
Right.
we go spend all these money on like big name brands,
Nikes
like
and shit
Gucci.
like that, man.
I'm guilty of Nikes and stuff like
Oh,
that.
I
But,
know.
like, we
With
go
your
spend
room
all
full of
this
shoes.
this designer clothes, but then we have people that are putting out stuff that looks good, but I'd rather buy this bigger name brand that nobody knows me when I can help this young man build his stuff from the bottom. And so I stopped trying to get out of that mentality and start doing better. And I have been doing better. So the brand just took kind of a backseat, and so now me and a buddy started a AAU basketball team for 12 and 13-year-olds. Right now they're 12 and 13. It sucks that the COVID hit, but that's why we have like a lot of out-of-state tournaments coming up. We hopefully will have one in Minneapolis. So that's kind of what I'm doing now.
well,
I
good. Well,
just-
don't give up on the
I
clothing line thing.
I
man.
don't want to. At some point, I'm going to do it. I just don't know how it's going to look completely because I started self-doubting myself. And it's tough to do any business. I sat in I don't know what it would be called. But the son of famous Dave from the whole franchise, the son of him,
Oh.
he goes around and does a lot of motivational speaking and
Sure.
and talking to the youth. And he came to our school. I had an opportunity to sit down and listen to him give a speech. And he said,
Not quite as
people
famous Dave Jr.
I don't know I can't remember his real name, but it was a really, really great speech. And he even talked about business aspect and how they thrive because of customer service and everything. And one of the things he said that really resonated with me, which was that it's really tough to start a business when you're trying to do it all by yourself. And anybody that thinks they can do it alone is a fool. It's like, it's not that it's impossible, but you're going to make it 10 times harder on yourself, and it's more likely to not succeed. And I've been trying to do all of this by myself because I can't ever find anybody with the same mindset as me that's really as determined and dedicated to
Do you listen to podcasts at all?
Sometimes.
You know, there's a great podcast out there called Startup. And you should check it out because they like really, that's what they do is they like go and they look at, you know, like fucking, I don't know, Cliff Bar, you know, the Cliff Bar, you know, is that what it's called? The guy hanging on the thing. Yeah, they'll like go and they'll like talk to him about how and it's really interesting getting like the mindset of how people did it. And I think you'd really like it.
Okay.
You know, it's inspirational.
Startup.
And
yep. 13 and
13th. Yep.
And what was the other one I was supposed to watch?
I don't know. Startup is the important one. Yeah. Good. All right. Well, let's wrap it up because you gotta go teach some kids.
Yep.
You gotta teach some kids.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.
The sun